Chapter 34:47. Demon Venerable Myriad Star Strength was terrifying. Every move he made had the power to destroy heaven and earth. But Yi Shiwen was like a reef in the raging waves. No matter how terrifying the attacks were, Yi Shiwen was always able to resist. In this kind of situation, he alone was able to block Devil Sovereign Myriad Star's endless attacks. His hands were like a super sturdy barrier. No attack could penetrate it. He was able to block it. Every sword light that Demon Venerable Myriad Star slashed down contained his Great Tao. He integrated the Starlight Great Tao into his Sword Tao, increasing its power to the extreme. For Yi Shiwen, this was a good reference for him because he could deduce many mysteries of the fourth realm from each sword attack. Because he had just stepped into the fourth realm, although he had stabilized his realm, there were still many things he didn't understand. His cultivation was different from Demon Venerable Myriad Star. It should be said that every heavenly venerable cultivated a different Great Tao. But as the saying goes, stones from another mountain can be used to improve jade. It was a reference for him. He didn't fight back and seemed to be at a disadvantage, but he was accumulating power and comprehending his own Great Tao. This was a great opportunity for him. It was not easy to find a master of the fourth realm to spar with. It was like using a sledgehammer, constantly hammering him repeatedly so that he could become stronger. The current Yi Shiwen didn't feel like he was fighting with Demon Venerable Myriad Star at all. On the contrary, he felt like he was practicing martial arts. He was relaxed and carefree. Every move and every style contained great principles. He was indescribably confident and calm. The more he comprehended, the stronger he became. Even the stupidest person could see that Yi Shiwen wasn't at a disadvantage. Even a veteran heavenly venerable like Demon Venerable Myriad Star couldn't win in front of Yi Shiwen, especially the experts in the city. They laughed happily when they saw this scene. The pressure from Demon Venerable Myriad Star was too great. Several Demon Venerables attacked just now, but they could see that the strongest among them was Demon Venerable Myriad Star. Heaven Talisman Immortal Venerable, who could fight evenly with Demon Venerable Nimble Snake and Demon Lord Extreme Heaven Talisman Immortal, almost couldn't hold on after encountering Demon Venerable Myriad Star. The pressure they felt from such a person was too great. In the end, it was Yi Shiwen who stood up and blocked Demon Venerable Myriad Star. This allowed them to heave a sigh of relief. At the very least, they wouldn't have their cities breached, slaughtered, and captured as slaves. The sovereign emperors and quasi-emperor experts of the demon epics side fell silent. How could they not see that Yi Shiwen was not an ordinary person? Previously, they had thought that this battle was just a matter of time and that it would be easy for them to win. However, when they actually fought, they discovered that they had been too naive. This martial epic's heavenly monarchs are simply too terrifying. How can they be so powerful? He's actually able to fight evenly with our Demon Sovereign Myriad Star. He's definitely a man of great talent and strategy. His future achievements will be limitless. Suddenly, Demon Venerable Myriad Star put away his long sword and stood tall in the chaos with his hands behind his back. He looked at Yi Shiwen and said in a cold voice, "You're a good revered martial artist. You're so cunning. You used my power to refine your martial arts consciousness and deduce the realms of the fourth realm. It seems that you've just entered the fourth realm not too long ago. I didn't expect you to be able to see through it," Yi Shiwen said with a faint smile. "It's true that I just entered the fourth realm not long ago. It's a pity that my Tao is about to be completed, but you actually managed to see through it. However, it doesn't make any difference, because everyone from the demon epic who came today will die." Ah, what a joke. Even if you stabilized your realm and completed your Tao, so what? Can you still compare to me? It's already very good that you can maintain your undefeated state. Demon Venerable Myriad Star sneered. "However, I don't intend to give you any more time. That was just a warm-up. Now is the real beginning." After Demon Venerable Myriad Star finished speaking, starlight shot out from his body one after another. One after another, they soared into the sky and formed a kingdom of stars in the primal chaos. Each star had a god inside it, chanting ancient and frightening scriptures. It was unknown how much time had passed since these demon gods existed. Each of their actions had traces of time. Yishuan looked at this scene. This kingdom of stars contained too many starlight secret techniques. Each starlight was a secret technique. Since ancient times, more than half of all the secret techniques of the Star Tao were contained here. There were only a few that he hadn't learned yet. With the support of these secret techniques of the Star Tao, demon venerable myriad stars' strength rose at an astonishing speed. His entire person was like a demon god standing in the sky. His entire body exuded a majestic aura of the ancient era. All kinds of secret techniques of the Star Tao were revolving around his body. Suddenly, these secret techniques and magical powers collided one after another. Each collision would evolve into a new secret technique and magical power. In just a moment, they had already fused, giving birth to many new secret techniques and magical powers. It was as if the great Tao of heaven and earth were contained within it. This was an extremely terrifying technique. Previously, Demon Venerable Myriad Star said that this was just a warm-up. This was definitely not a joke. He really had the strength to do this. Demon Monarch Extreme Extremity looked at this scene and felt incomparably terrified. His complexion changed, and he said, "This is Demon Venerable Myriad Star's true secret technique." Rumor has it that he has taken all the secret techniques of the Star Tao for his own use. I originally thought it was fake. How could anyone learn all the great Tao? I didn't expect it to be true. With this move, that Martial Venerable is dead for sure. He originally didn't think that Demon Venerable Myriad Star was that powerful. At most, his cultivation was more tyrannical than him. In other aspects, he didn't count as much. However, after using this move, he realized that there was such a huge difference. With this move, Demon Venerable Myriad Star would be invincible even in the fourth realm. If he hadn't encountered a freak like Yi Shiwen, he would have been invincible. He was very tyrannical. This magic is a bit interesting. Yi Shiwen spat out these words indifferently. However, his expression was still cold. Although Demon Venerable Myriad Star's secret technique was very terrifying, it didn't scare him. Is it just a bit interesting? Although your martial epic has developed an extremely brilliant civilization, if you think that your martial epic is unrivaled in the world, then you are gravely mistaken. The magic of my demonic epic is also unrivaled, no weaker than others. Didn't you say that you wanted to show me the might of the martial epic civilization? Now, I will teach you a lesson and let you know the power of my demonic epic. Demon Venerable Myriad Star stood high up in the primal chaos. Suddenly, all the secret techniques and secret techniques in his Starlight secret technique flew up and turned into a horrifying flood. Then it poured into his arm and suddenly grabbed at Yi Shiwen. In an instant, the sky turned dark, the sun and moon lost their light, and the primal chaos lost all color. All the martial epic civilization was suppressed. In an instant, this attack even suppressed the might of the heavenly Tao. It wanted to turn the martial epics heavenly Tao into their demonic epics heavenly Tao, turning it into a heavenly Tao environment that was beneficial to him. It was extremely horrifying. In that instant, everyone in the city clearly felt like they had lost something. It was like a fish out of water, and there was an unimaginable feeling of suffocation. It was as if even breathing had become an extremely difficult thing to do. Everyone immediately understood what happened. Some people even thought of something even more horrifying. Could this be the feeling after the Great Apocalypse? After the Great Apocalypse, the heavenly Tao would also be severely injured and disappear. It would need to give birth to a new civilization and heavenly Tao. Under such circumstances, the people born from the martial epic's heavenly Tao would have to face such a horrifying scene. No wonder it was said that only heavenly venerates could survive the Great Apocalypse. Even sovereign emperors would be severely injured and die. If one wanted to survive, they could only rely on the protection of a heavenly venerate. Do you think you can block all the martial epic's heavenly Tao? Just at this moment, Yi Shiwen shouted and took a step forward. Boundless great Tao laws and aura surged out of his body and rushed into the sky. He immediately broke through the heavenly Tao seal by demonic venerate myriad star. Everyone immediately felt much better. Why was it said that the martial epic was the main character of this epic? It was because as long as one was within the range of the heavenly Tao, they would receive the heavenly Tao's help. Demonic venerate myriad star could only fool the heavenly Tao temporarily at best. It was impossible to fool the heavenly Tao for a long time. How could human strength surpass the heavens? This was the same even if one cultivated to the heavenly venerate stage. At most, a heavenly venerate could use power that far exceeded that of ordinary living beings. However, it was simply impossible to contend with a colossus like the heavenly way. After breaking through demonic venerate myriad star's heavenly Tao seal, Yishuan immediately flew up and clawed at demonic venerate myriad star. He clenched his fist and punched out. Rumble. The 6 paths of reincarnation fist's horrifying power of 6 paths blocked demonic venerate myriad star's terrifying attack that was formed from countless great Tao techniques and divine abilities. One was majestic, the other was pure, but they were equally matched. Chapter 3448. Yishuan's 6 paths of reincarnation fist contained the truth of 6 paths of reincarnation. It was also a great path. Although it was said to be 6 paths, in fact, after reaching the stage in Yishuan's hands, it already contained thousands of paths, and even tens of thousands of paths. Everything in the world would be involved in this 6 paths of reincarnation. This was also the fist intent of the 6 paths of reincarnation fist. It was just that Yishuan had perfected it. If one continued to cultivate the 6 paths of reincarnation fist, it would not be difficult to become a heavenly venerate. As long as one grasped reincarnation, one could even become an outstanding heavenly venerate. This was because reincarnation was a great Tao no matter which epoch it was. Becoming the master of reincarnation would make one an outstanding heavenly venerate. In fact, the heavenly Tao was constantly born and destroyed, and the epoch was constantly destroyed and reborn. Wasn't this a kind of reincarnation? Gasp! That martial saint actually blocked this move. At this time, many people began to suck in a breath of cold air. Such a blow had been easily blocked by Yishuan. This move actually contains the great Tao of my demonic epoch. Demon Venerate Myriad Star was somewhat surprised that Yishuan managed to block this move. Previously, Yishuan used the saber. Hence, he had not noticed it before. Now that he truly felt it, he was surprised. When Demon Venerate Myriad Star's attack swept down, even a 4th realm expert would find it difficult to block it. Not to mention Yishuan, who had just broken through not long ago. However, what surprised Demon Venerate Myriad Star even more was that Yishuan could use a martial technique that contained the demonic epic's great Tao to perfection. Martial Saint, didn't you say earlier that you would show me the power of your martial epic's martial techniques? Why are you still using my demonic epic's martial techniques? What a joke. Demon Venerate Myriad Star laughed loudly. You are the fool. Do you think this is your demonic epic's martial techniques? My martial epic's martial techniques are the exact opposite. My martial epic is all-encompassing. We can use any epic's essence, contain them all, and then turn them into my martial epic's martial techniques. This proves the might of my martial epic. To think that you do not feel proud of yourself. How laughable. Yishuan said as a matter of course. Naturally, he would not let the other party's words break his Tao heart. The martial techniques of the martial epic were very diverse in the first place. They did not just contain pure martial techniques. There are also many great Tao in them. Just like what Demon Exalt Myriad Star used, it was also the fusion of the great Tao of stars into magic. In essence, it was the same as his 6 paths of reincarnation fist. There was no difference. At their level, how could they be bothered with such a thing? Humph! Martial Venerate, I have to admit that you are indeed the most powerful martial epic heavenly venerate I have met. Every epic is made up of many great Tao. It is not limited to just one. However, even so, it is useless. Demon Venerate Myriad Star smiled coldly. How can you compare to my accumulations? I survived the great apocalypse, so you will never be able to compare to me. As Demon Venerate Myriad Star spoke, he finally made his move. Another sword appeared in his hand. Each sword contained countless great Tao techniques, turning them into horrifying attacks as they flew at Yi Shiwen. Furthermore, each sword was more horrifying than the one before. Tearing apart the ages and shattering the river of time was no problem at all. He brought out his strength to an extremely horrifying level. Compared to the strength he displayed at the start, the current Demon Venerate Myriad Star was the truly horrifying one. So what if your accumulations are? Now, I will show you the 3,000 great Tao of my martial epic. Yi Shiwen roared. Suddenly, his body transformed into the 3,000 martial Tao incarnations. In an instant, his strength skyrocketed, forming a horrifying power. At this moment, the 3,000 martial Tao incarnations merged into his body. Their might was unprecedentedly stronger than before. The incomplete king-grade dragon vein in his body also spewed out spiritual energy as if it didn't cost anything. It was supporting the 3,000 martial Tao incarnations. Every incarnation of the 3,000 martial paths represented an extreme martial path. Yi Shiwen also used the 3,000 martial Tao techniques in an instant, clashing against Demon Venerate Myriad Star's Starry Sword Light. The more he fought, the stronger he became. In an instant, Demon Venerate Myriad Star's Starry Sword Light was shattered. It couldn't get close to Yi Shiwen at all. At this moment, Yi Shiwen had truly entered the realm of no sorrow nor joy. He had reached unimaginable might. Disbelief appeared on Demon Venerate Myriad Star's face. With the support of the countless starry great Tao techniques and divine abilities, his sword momentum could even slash a world into pieces. But now, Yi Shiwen kept shattering it. Yi Shiwen's 3,000 martial Tao also left a deep impression on him, because the starry great Tao techniques that he cultivated were already very diverse. There were countless starry great Tao techniques and divine abilities that he could use. But compared to Yi Shiwen's 3,000 martial Tao techniques, they paled in comparison. His ambition was to completely deduce the starry great Tao and be invincible in this domain. However, Yi Shiwen was ambitious. He wanted to deduce the entire martial epic's great Tao and use it for himself. The two of them weren't on the same level. In his opinion, this was impossible. If Yi Shiwen could do it, wouldn't he be on equal footing with the martial epic's heavenly Tao? That was simply impossible. But even so, this willpower was already far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Die! Demon Venerate Myriad Star roared. The sword in his hand suddenly fell. It seemed as if the power of heaven and earth was completely contained in this sword. Then, he wanted to kill Yi Shiwen completely. However, Yi Shiwen's body suddenly emitted endless golden light. The martial Tao radiated light and instantly turned into two big hands, directly catching the sword out of thin air. Bang! The big hands caught the sword out of thin air. It was like catching a white blade with bare hands. They firmly held on, preventing the sword from falling. Heaven and earth are at my disposal. At this moment, Demon Monarch Myriad Star's arm slightly shook. With a terrifying power, the sword separated from Yi Shiwen's martial arts light in an instant. Then, it suddenly stabbed towards Yi Shiwen's throat with lightning speed. He wanted to kill Yi Shiwen in an instant. However, Yi Shiwen's expression didn't change at all. On his body, endless 5 rays of light directly transformed, and then turned into a martial arts lotus, wrapping him in it. The sword directly touched the lotus, but couldn't break it. Then it suddenly flew away. This was because Yi Shiwen's understanding of martial Tao had reached an astonishing level. Therefore, the martial Tao light would also undergo thousands of changes according to his thoughts. This was a kind of martial Tao scene that had great cultivation and great creation. At this moment, Yi Shiwen suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were like 2 rays of golden light, shooting straight at the bull, breaking through the chaos. Yi Shiwen strode forward and actually pounced towards Demon Venerate Myriad Star. His body transformed into countless arms, and in each arm was displaying a kind of secret technique, pouncing towards Demon Venerate Myriad Star. He really launched a counterattack. In a series of attacks, just now, he had truly comprehended the true meaning of the fourth realm. Such a fierce battle didn't have any adverse effects on him. On the contrary, it made him stronger. He had already understood many of the principles, so naturally, he didn't need to hide at this time to launch a counterattack. Rumble. At this time, Demon Venerate Myriad Star Kingdom was directly broken by Yi Shiwen. Then, the 3,000 martial Dao bombarded the Star Kingdom, smashing it into pieces. How is this possible? Demon Venerate Myriad Star's eyes suddenly widened. This is a collision of the great Dao. How can your great Dao be so much stronger than mine? What's so strange about this? One's breadth of mind determines the situation. You only have this kind of breadth of mind, so you only have this kind of situation and only this kind of strength. Therefore, you will never understand. Therefore, it's only natural that you lose to me. Yi Shiwen laughed loudly and then pounced towards Demon Venerate Myriad Star to counterattack. You should have just broken through. How can your cultivation be on par with mine? Demon Venerate Myriad Star's eyes suddenly widened. This was the most incredible thing to him. Even if a heavenly Venerate could instantly comprehend the great Tao and improve his realm, there was no way he could use his skill to advance to the peak of the fourth realm unless he swallowed some heavenly treasure. What's so strange about this? Didn't I just say that your situation isn't good enough? Therefore, you will never understand. Yi Shiwen laughed loudly. Demon Venerate Myriad Star thought that he had already stepped into the peak of the fourth realm, but in fact he hadn't. If he had stepped into the peak of the fourth realm, he could have slapped Demon Venerate Myriad Star to death without giving him a chance to say anything. This was because Demon Venerate Myriad Star would never know how solid his foundation was. When he was in the third realm, his foundation and skill had already surpassed any third realm heavenly Venerate. Therefore, once he advanced, he would already be an outstanding person in the fourth realm. He didn't even need to step into the peak of the fourth realm. Don't be complacent too early. Do you think that's all I have? Demon Venerate Myriad Star roared loudly. His hands formed a seal, and in the shattered Star Kingdom, a door faintly appeared in the void. As time passed, it gave everyone an extremely terrifying pressure. Stargate. Chapter 3449. In an instant, an endless amount of starlight cascaded down, forming a gate that was faintly discernible in the void. As time passed, it grew more and more corporeal. This gate possessed an unimaginable amount of power. Countless amounts of starlight in the heaven and earth were gathered together, granting it a terrifying power. This portal finally condensed under his summon, and then fiercely smashed towards Yi Shiwen. The door locked everything in an instant, freezing the chaos. The chaos that was originally like a raging wave was also frozen by the door. It was as though time had frozen, and it looked incomparably terrifying. Martial supremacy. You can actually force him to this extent and summon the Stellar Gate. However, this is as far as you can go. Demon Supremacy Myriad Star laughed heartily. The portal above his head was getting bigger and bigger. In an instant, it grew to more than 10,000 feet. Endless starlight circulated above it. It was the convergence of all the Star Tao and the origin of all related achievements. Myriad Stars Gate. He actually managed to cultivate the Myriad Stars Gate, a supernatural ability that transcends ancient opportunities. Even Demon Supremacy, who was also a Demon Supremacy, was completely shocked because he had only heard of the Stellar Gate. However, this kind of supernatural power had been lost for many years. It was impossible for anyone to cultivate it. However, he didn't expect Demon Supremacy Myriad Star to cultivate such a level of supernatural power. I'm afraid that no fourth realm expert would be able to contend against this move. Once the Stellar Gate condensed, it almost represented invincibility. Everything in the world would be dominated by the starlight. At this time, Yi Shiwen also felt the terrifying pressure brought by this multitude stargate. Even the 3,000 martial arts within his body were being crushed by this multitude stargate. It was as if he had suffered a heavy blow. It was extremely terrifying. Immovable mountain. Yi Shiwen roared, and the spiritual power in his body began to surge. It was like a sea stabilizing divine needle, stabilizing this terrifying wave that was sweeping over. The broken laws in his body and the shattered martial arts incarnation were all restored. Under the stellar gate, Yi Shiwen displayed an outstanding foundation and inside information. Because his foundation and knowledge far exceeded that of ordinary people, the great Tao in his body wouldn't instantly collapse when he faced the myriad stars gate's attack. If it had been a fourth realm heavenly venerable, he would not have been able to hold on, and his great Tao would have collapsed. It's impossible to defeat me like this. Your myriad stars gate isn't perfect enough. You can't defeat me with an incomplete magical power. Yi Shiwen's eyes were like torches as he said directly, If you're right. It's not perfect because my great Tao isn't perfect. But it has already contained most of the star great Tao since ancient times. It's enough to defeat any powerful enemy. Devil Sage Myriad Star stretched out his hands and grabbed the 100,000 feet tall, terrifying gate. Then, with a sudden burst of strength, the Myriad Star gate smashed down at an even more astonishing speed. No one expected that the situation would change so quickly. Originally, the strength that Yi Shiwen displayed was above that of Devil Sage Myriad Star. But soon, Devil Sage Myriad Star displayed a secret technique like the Myriad Stars Gate and reversed the situation. In particular, the Emperor Lords and Quasi-Emperors had truly witnessed a battle between heavenly venerables. When Yi Shiwen had severely injured Demon Monarch Extreme Malice and Demon Sage Nimble Snake, he hadn't used any fierce means at all. This was because from beginning to end, Yi Shiwen had crushed the two of them with one saber strike each. The two of them were struggling to hold on. One was seriously injured and the other died tragically. If Devil Sage Myriad Star hadn't intervened, perhaps both of them would have died at the same time. However, it was different from Devil Ancestor Myriad Star. Devil Ancestor Myriad Star was no different from Yi Shiwen. He was also a super expert who stood above the fourth realm. This battle was the one where the true techniques were frequently used. The spectators were fascinated by the battle between the two peerless experts. Although they couldn't understand many of the techniques used, they were able to display their vast might through the use of martial arts, magical techniques, and magical techniques. Amazing. In the end, Devil Sage Myriad Star is still a little stronger. Once the Myriad Stars Gate appears, even a revered martial artist wouldn't be able to contend against it. It's already very difficult for a revered martial artist to persist until now. It's just that he doesn't have a technique that can contend against it. Compared to the people of the previous era, the people of this era may be strong, but they lack some foundation. Yes, they're at the same realm, but their comprehension of the heavenly Tao is as different as heaven and earth. This battle is so brilliant. I only feel that I'm about to comprehend something and make a breakthrough soon. However, just when everyone thought that Yi Shiwen wouldn't be able to resist anymore, the falling speed of the Myriad Stars Gate suddenly slowed down in the endless chaos. Then it actually stopped. Devil Sage Myriad Stars' expression changed. You want to force my Myriad Stars Gate to stop? Do you really think that's possible? It was Yi Shiwen who resisted the falling Myriad Stars Gate. It was as if there was an invisible big hand firmly holding onto the Myriad Stars Gate, not letting it fall. At this moment, a star sword condensed from the Myriad Stars Gate. It turned into a terrifying attack and slashed towards Yi Shiwen's head. It wanted to kill Yi Shiwen on the spot, while he was resisting the Myriad Stars Gate with all his strength. Master! In the city, Bian Xiaoya shouted worriedly. At this critical moment, Yi Shiwen's body emitted endless light. This light turned into a huge fist and punched out. It actually smashed the sword into pieces. It couldn't get close to Yi Shiwen at all. But when Yi Shiwen moved, the Myriad Stars Gate began to fall again. This was also Devil Sage Myriad Stars' goal. He revealed a proud smile on his face. He wanted to disrupt Yi Shiwen's actions and make him fall into his trap step by step. Everything was under his control. Just when he thought he was about to succeed, a talisman suddenly flew out of Yi Shiwen's body. This talisman exuded endless power. In an instant, it flew up and crashed into the Myriad Stars Gate. Boom! Everyone only heard an incomparably loud noise. Then, everyone saw the chaos that was originally fixed by the Myriad Stars Gate began to roll again. Moreover, it brought about even higher waves. Then, the seemingly powerful Myriad Stars Gate began to shake violently. Under the impact of the talisman, it shook violently. Then, in front of everyone's eyes, it began to crack inch by inch. Devil Sage Myriad Star spat out a mouthful of blood. It felt as if blood was sprayed all over the sky. He used all his strength to summon the Myriad Stars Gate. But now, the Myriad Stars Gate was actually destroyed. This directly caused him to vomit blood on the spot. He suffered the backlash of the shattered Myriad Stars Gate. His face finally revealed an extremely fearful expression. In just a moment, the trump card that he was so proud of, the Myriad Stars Gate, was destroyed. He was like a defeated general. His eyes were filled with despair and madness. Impossible, what is that thing? How can it destroy my Myriad Stars Gate so easily? He still couldn't believe it. That's the supreme ancestral symbol. He finally remembered and said with a somewhat crazed expression, "So it's the supreme ancestral symbol. No wonder it could break my Myriad Stars Gate. Heaven Talisman Immortal, you bitch, you actually used the supreme ancestral symbol to exchange for his protection. Why did you do this? Why? If we wanted to protect you, our demon era could also do it. Why did you give him the supreme ancestral symbol? He's hysterical. He's crazy." Although Extreme Demon Monarch didn't suffer such a blow, he also revealed a somewhat incredulous expression. He knew very well how important the supreme ancestral symbol was to the Talisman Dao era and how important it was to them. Therefore, they constantly pursued Heaven Talisman Immortal. But they didn't expect that it would fall into the hands of Yi Shiwen and become his trump card and greatest trump card. Do you still want to ask why? Because you destroyed my Talisman Dao Epic and forced me to live like a stray dog. No matter how lowly I am, I will never join your demonic epic. Moreover, who do you think you are? You want me to join your demonic epic? Why don't you use a mirror to see who you are? If I wasn't injured, would you have the guts to hunt me down? Heaven Talisman Immortal Venerable's voice resounded from the city. Her voice was filled with disdain. Yi Shiwen knew that since the supreme ancestral symbol was exposed by Demon Monarch Myriad Star, he probably couldn't keep it a secret anymore. But he didn't care. Anyway, as long as he used the supreme ancestral symbol, it would be known sooner or later. It made no difference to him whether it was sooner or later. On the contrary, having the supreme ancestral symbol was not only troublesome for him, but also a kind of deterrence. Many people who were tempted to make a move against him didn't dare to make a move. He would have to face too many opponents in the future, so he didn't care about a few more. After Yi Shiwen used the supreme ancestral symbol to break through the Myriad Stargate, he retracted the supreme ancestral symbol back into his body. Then, he took a step forward and directly attacked Demon Martial Myriad Star. He was like a golden god of war whose entire body was emitting golden light. He suddenly rushed in front of Demon Monarch Myriad Star and blasted out a punch. Demon Monarch Myriad Star wasn't prepared at all. He was hit on the spot and was instantly sent flying. Chapter 3450. In an instant, Demon Venerable Myriad Star was hit. He was still in a trance and in a state of madness. When the Myriad Star's gate was broken, he suffered a huge backlash. Now, he was hit by Yi Shiwen's fist and was sent flying. The fist tore the heavens and the earth, shaking the universe. Why? Devil Supremacy Myriad Star spat out another mouthful of blood. His entire body was torn apart, and he was bathed in blood. Before he could recover from the previous attack, he was hit by the attack. This fist was too horrifying. It shook the 6 realms and sent everything into reincarnation. Aren't you very powerful? Isn't the Myriad Stars Gate invincible? How about now? Yishuin closed in step by step and rushed forward again. His fist blasted out a rainbow light that filled the sky. It directly turned into a waterfall and blasted into Demon Venerable Myriad Star's body. Demon Venerable Myriad Star's body suddenly erupted with starlight. The star laws were punched out by Yishuin. It's over, it's over. Lord Demon Venerable is not his match at all. Even the star law in his body has been destroyed. It's over. How can this be? Lord Demon Venerable Myriad Star is extremely powerful. How can he not be a match for this heavenly venerable of the martial epic? Impossible. I don't believe it. How can the supreme ancestral symbol be so powerful? It broke the Myriad Star's gate in one go. Everyone was shocked. They felt a chill run down their spine when they saw this scene. This was extremely horrifying. Yishuin used the supreme ancestral symbol to reverse the situation and instantly injured Demon Venerable Myriad Star. This was completely out of everyone's expectations. They thought that Demon Venerable Myriad Star had the upper hand, but now that they looked carefully, they realized that it was not the case. Demon Venerable Myriad Star roared. Martial Venerable, you relied on this sneak attack to defeat me. You are too despicable. If you have the ability, wait for me to recover, and then we can fight again. Ha ha ha. Recover? You are too funny. Yishuin sneered. How could he give Demon Venerable Myriad Star a chance to recover? He was a terrifying Fourth Realm expert. Naturally, he was very powerful. It wouldn't have been easy for Yishuin to deal with the Myriad Star's gate if he hadn't relied on the supreme ancestral symbol. In fact, it wouldn't have been as easy as it had been this time. But how could it be so easy to use the supreme ancestral symbol? The supreme ancestral symbol was the supreme existence of the talisman era. It was incomparably mystical. Using it required a huge price. At this time, he naturally couldn't give Demon Venerable Myriad Star the opportunity to use the Myriad Stargate again. However, he also knew that it was impossible. The Myriad Stargate was the collection of all the martial arts of Demon Venerable Myriad Star. It was just like Yishuin's 3,000 martial arts. If it was completely defeated in an instant, then it would take a lot of effort to condense it again. Moreover, it couldn't be done in a short period of time. Of course, it was extremely difficult to destroy such a trump card. It was only because of the supreme ancestral symbol that it was unlucky enough to be destroyed. Otherwise, it would not have ended up like this. Extreme Demon Monarch, hurry up and help block him. Otherwise, if I die, you won't be able to live. Seeing that Yishuin wasn't fooled and wouldn't give him a chance to recover, Demon Martial Myriad Star quickly shouted. If it was in normal times, he would never ask for help from someone who was inferior to him. Moreover, he had already reached this point. What other choice did he have? Although Extreme Demon Monarch was angry that Demon Venerable Myriad Star was plotting against him, he also understood that Demon Venerable Myriad Star was right. If even Demon Venerable Myriad Star died in Yishuin's hands, then they would all be dead. Especially since he was a heavenly master, he would be an eye-catching target. Others could escape, but he could not. He would definitely be targeted by Yishuin, and it would be difficult for him to escape death. Therefore, even if it was for himself, he had to stop Yishuin. At this moment, Extreme Demon Monarch did not dare to stay any longer. A long spear flew out from his hand and pierced towards Yishuin. He wanted to stall Yishuin and buy enough time for Demon Venerable Myriad Star. You're really courting death. If you escape now, I may not have the time to finish you off. Yishuin sneered. In the face of this extreme devil lord who was rushing to his death, Yishuin wasn't flustered at all. He wore the boundless nature manifestation's hand on his hand. Then his big hand suddenly transformed into a monstrous form and slapped down towards the spear. Clang! A sound similar to the sound of gold and iron colliding with each other was heard. Yishuin blocked the spear with one hand. Extreme Demon Monarch felt his hand holding the spear tremble violently. He felt the terrifying power from the spear's body. He was almost sent flying. How is this possible? How can this power be so terrifying? Extreme Demon Monarch didn't dare to believe it. After all, the strength that Yishuan had displayed wasn't just a little bit stronger than when he had fought with him a moment ago. Could it be that he did not use his full strength just now? He felt desperate when he thought of this possibility. Yishuan hadn't even used his full strength, but he was already suppressing him and demon venerable spirit snake by himself. The two of them didn't even have the strength to fight back. If demon venerable myriad star hadn't intervened, he would have died long ago. Facing such a terrifying opponent, he felt despair no matter how strong his willpower was. What he did not know was that although Yishuan did not use his full strength just now, the gap between them should not have been so big. The battle between Yishuan and demon venerable myriad star had made him realize a lot, especially the many mysteries of the fourth realm and the way of heaven. He had gained a fundamental understanding of the mysteries of the fourth realm, which suddenly made him a lot stronger. These changes were completed in a short period of time, so he did not notice them at all. By the time he did, he truly felt Yishuan's terrifying combat power. However, Yishuan was not going to let him off easily. He immediately stepped forward and blasted a punch directly in front of Extreme Demon Monarch's face. This was the same move he had used to deal with Demon Venerable Myriad Star. Now that it was someone else, he was still using the same move, but the power was still extremely terrifying. Extreme Demon Monarch did not think about how to deal with it at all. He just wanted to stall for time. However, he did not expect that after stalling for time, Yishuan would actually come over. This was completely beyond his expectations and plans. Bang! He did not have time to react and was directly hit. The scales all over his body also shattered in response to this punch. Suddenly, it turned into a terrifying storm that swept in all directions. Puff! Extreme Demon Monarch spurted out a mouthful of blood, and his entire body flew out in an instant. Then, he saw that Yishuan had already taken a step forward and arrived in front of Extreme Demon Monarch. He was holding a decapitated long saber in his hand. It was the weapon of the sacred concealment demon emperor. In Yishuan's hand, a terrifying radiance erupted. It wasn't the radiance of the demonic path, but the radiance of the martial path. This proved that Yishuan had completely refined this saber for his own use, and could exert 100% of its power. Puff! Extreme Demon Monarch's body was sent flying in the chaos. He could not stop at all. Even with his skills, it was useless in the face of this terrifying impact. Once again, such a saber came down, and he was cut in half without any defense. Blood essence sprayed all over the ground. God knew how many chaos creatures in the chaos had smelled the blood and were approaching. Yishuan said coldly, "You beasts, get out of my way." He slashed out with his saber, and these chaos beasts that surrounded him were instantly cut in half. He was not Bien Xiaoya. Even if he wanted to kill a chaos beast, it would take a long time. For him, it was just a matter of a saber. It was not a problem at all. The bodies of these chaos beasts were connected to Extreme Demon Monarch's body. They were all absorbed by Yishuan and watered into the World Tree, waiting for the World Tree fruit that belonged to them to ripen. Extreme Demon Monarch's body was not only cut in half by Yishuan's saber just now, but even his spirit was destroyed in this saber strike. Any saber strike from these heavenly master-level martial tools would not only cut his body, but also his spirit. He was instantly killed. After killing Extreme Demon Monarch with a saber strike, Yishuan turned his attention back to Demon Supremacy Myriad Star. At this time, Demon Supremacy Myriad Star's injuries were undoubtedly much better than at the beginning. The recovery ability of a heavenly master was fully reflected at this time. From the outside, Demon Supremacy Myriad Star didn't even seem to have any injuries. However, Yishuan knew that this was just an illusion. After being severely injured by the supreme ancestral symbol, it was impossible for his internal injuries to heal so quickly. It was just that it was only for a short period of time, and it couldn't be seen from the outside. Yishuan took a step forward, and the long saber in his hand slashed down again. As the saber slashed down, the saber down martial arts incarnation in his body suddenly dazzled. The light was dazzling, as if it wanted to suppress the other 3,000 martial arts incarnations by itself. It instantly integrated into this saber strike. This saber strike could destroy the heavens and the earth, causing the heavens to collapse and the earth to crack. Demon Supremacy Myriad Star raised his sword to resist. However, the sky full of sword light that he slashed out was cleanly broken in just one move. Then, he spat out another mouthful of blood. He was injured by Yi Shiwen's slash. Just as Yi Shiwen thought, he was only strong on the outside but weak on the inside. Just one saber strike was enough to force him to show his true form. He couldn't resist at all. Demon Supremacy Myriad Star couldn't hold on any longer. He quickly turned around and fled. At this point, there was no chance of survival if he continued to fight. However, Yi Shiwen had already reached this point. How could he give Demon Supremacy Myriad Star the chance to survive and escape? 3 saber strikes landed on his body. Pucci, Demon Supremacy Myriad Star's body was split into pieces in the chaos, and he died instantly. Chapter 3451. After killing Demon Venerable Myriad Star, the demonic era's army finally couldn't hold on any longer. Their 3 greatest backers, the 3 demon venerables, had died at Yi Shiwen's hands, let alone them. How could they contend with Yi Shiwen? At this time, Bian Xiaoye and the others, who had been preparing for a long time, led the army in pursuit. They were like a sharp blade that ruthlessly pierced into the demonic era's army. At this time, the Wood Emperor also led the army in the city that had been assembled and prepared to attack from another direction. These 2 armies were like 2 sharp weapons that ruthlessly pierced through the demonic era's army. After losing their leader, the demonic era's army was scared out of their wits. They had no chance of winning in front of a heavenly venerable. Only a heavenly venerable could contend with a heavenly venerable. Moreover, the 3 heavenly venerables who led the army had all died at Yi Shiwen's hands. How could they contend with him? Even though they still had several emperors, they simply couldn't fight back in front of the absolute strength of a heavenly venerable. They could only choose to escape. However, how could Yi Shiwen let them escape? Although the human army and the satellite city armies were mainly encircling and suppressing the demonic Dao Epic's army, there were far more demonic Dao Epic's army. In addition, there were also sovereign emperor-level experts blocking the way. So, it wasn't easy for the human army. However, Yi Shiwen watched from the side and continued to attack. He directly scattered the soul of the demonic era's army. Once the demonic era's army showed signs of gathering, he would directly scatter it. As for the emperors of the demonic era, Yi Shiwen didn't kill them. Instead, he let Bian Xiaoye and the others deal with them. This was also a form of tempering for Bian Xiaoye and the others. Compared to the demonic era's emperors, the human race's emperors were still too immature. It was difficult to compare with them, especially in terms of foundation and accumulation. The human race's emperors were far inferior. Not everyone was like Yi Shiwen, who had great fortuitous encounters. Although they had only cultivated for tens of thousands of years, they could already hang up and beat the super experts of the ancient era, who had cultivated for countless times longer than them. They still needed a lot of training before they could improve further. Especially now that they were on the verge of breaking through, this was even more necessary. The Demon Path era's army fled in disorder. However, since Yi Shiwen had killed all the demon supremacies and the demon sovereign emperors were being held back by Bian Xiaoye and the others, there was no one to guide them. They were running aimlessly and without direction, just like headless flies. Moreover, it was impossible to distinguish directions in the primal chaos. Hence, they could not flee at all. They were like headless flies, slowly killed. Once they tried to gather and fight the martial epic's army, Yi Shiwen would scatter them. This continued for 3 days and 3 nights before they were finally killed. The sovereign emperors of the Devil Path era were either killed by Bian Xiaoye and the others, or those who were too strong were killed by Yi Shiwen. In the end, the entire Demon Path era's army was annihilated. Although the human army suffered a lot of damage, there were not many casualties because Yi Shiwen was watching from the side. In the end, Most of them were saved by Yi Shiwen. On the contrary, when this army was annihilated, they gained a lot. In particular, this army was the elite army of the Demon Path era. Every one of them had a lot of wealth. In the end, after they were killed, they plundered everything. Many people began to break through on the spot. Indeed, a horse would not get fat without grass at night. Only by fighting with their lives on the line could their cultivation advance by leaps and bounds in a short time. When these people advanced by one realm on average, it was equivalent to the strength of the entire army increasing by more than several times. This was something that could not be achieved with normal hard work. After annihilating this army, Yi Shiwen quickly led the army back to the satellite city. Aside from letting Bian Xiaoya and the others cultivate in seclusion, he immediately went to find Venerable Heaven Talisman. Are your injuries better now? Is Demon Venerable Spirit Snake's body useful to you? When Yi Shiwen found Venerable Heaven Talisman was refining Demon Venerable Spirit Snake's body. Yes, Heaven Talisman Immortal Venerate explained. Demon Venerate Spirit Snake was also a strange snake in the demonic Tao epic. He was born with demonic chi. The Demon Venerate origin in his body is extremely useful to me and can heal my injuries. Who is the one who injured your body? Given a Heavenly Venerate's regenerative ability, no matter how serious an injury is, it should be easy for you to recover. Even if it's a serious injury, it should be easy for you to recover with your own strength. You don't need to rely on external help. Yi Shiwen couldn't help but ask. It was a very simple matter for a Heavenly Master-level expert to recover from their injuries. After all, a Heavenly Master-level expert's body was a huge treasure house. So, any drop of blood essence was a priceless treasure for an ordinary creature. Yi Shiwen couldn't help but ask. Because of this, the injuries on her body were very serious. Not only was she unable to recover after such a long time, but she also needed to rely on external forces to recover. That was why Yi Shiwen asked. He could sense that before Heaven Talisman Immortal Venerable was injured, her cultivation realm and strength were definitely above his current self. She was one of the top experts in the current world. Even after being injured, she could still fight against the Third Realm Sacred Concealment Demon Monarch. But even so, she was still heavily injured despite her cultivation realm and cultivation realm. Therefore, Yi Shiwen asked curiously. It was an expert of the Demon Path era. I should say that I was injured by the demon ancestor of the Demon Path era, Venerable Heaven Talisman said. Even if it is just a means left by an expert of that level, it is enough to catch me off guard and seriously injure me. Venerable Heaven Talisman revealed a somewhat bitter smile on her face. Demon ancestor? Yi Shiwen asked. Is there such a powerful expert in the Demon Path era? Of course there is. Don't tell me you think that only your god of fortune heaven is the most powerful in the entire world. The demon ancestor is the most tyrannical existence in the Demon Path era. However, he is different from your god of fortune heaven. He was born with the first wisp of demon energy in the world. He already existed when the Demon Path era was just born. From the moment he was born, he was invincible. There was no one in the Demon Path era who could rival him. He is the demon ancestor. You also cultivate the magical martial arts left behind by the Demon Path era. Speaking of it, you can be said to have inherited some of his mantle. Venerable Heaven Talisman said, in short, the status of your god of fortune heaven in the martial path era is similar to the status of your god of fortune heaven in the Demon Path era. In fact, the status of the Demon Path era is even higher. Yi Shiwen could understand that the ancestor of a clan was often the most powerful one in the clan, not to mention the ancestor of an era. Of course, he was the most tyrannical existence in the entire era. It was rare to see someone like the god of fortune heaven who grew up in the middle of the era. I was hit by his tricks. Although he is no longer here, he still sealed some of his tricks. Venerable Heaven Talisman said, it is precisely because of this that our Talisman Tao era was defeated by the alliance of the Demon Path era and other eras. Venerable Heaven Talisman's face revealed a slight sneer at this moment. Her eyes were also filled with hatred. Otherwise, with my skills, even if I am severely injured, I can quickly recover. Yishuan finally understood that there was such a hidden reason behind this matter. No wonder Venerable Heaven Talisman could not recover by himself. But how long will it take for your injuries to recover? Yishuan immediately asked. It will probably take some time. During this time, I will try not to make a move. So, I definitely can help you. Venerable Heaven Talisman shook his head and said, It's okay. Just recuperate well. I will handle the rest. Yishuan said. For him, Venerable Heaven Talisman was at most a little stronger than his Sword Dao incarnation, Venerable Sword. Venerable Heaven Talisman could not be of much help at all, but if his skills recovered, the situation would be completely different. It was tantamount to having an extra super expert as a helper. Yes, Venerable Heaven Talisman nodded and said, You better refine the supreme ancestral symbol as soon as possible. This time, the ancient eras joined forces to attack Moon City. It will not be easy for your Fortune God dynasty to resolve it. There will probably be more turbulence and chaos in the coming days. Under such circumstances, the stronger you are, the better it will be. Venerable Heaven Talisman had high hopes for Yishuan. She hoped that Yishuan could avenge the Talisman Dao era and destroy the Demon Path era. Although it was a choice made under desperation, she also hoped that it could be achieved. Understood. Yishuan also felt the importance of refining the supreme ancestral symbol. However, he still had to wait for the world tree in his body to grow the world tree fruit. After devouring the world tree fruit, it was only a matter of time for him to step into the peak of the fourth realm. It would save him countless years of accumulation. At that time, as long as he worked hard, he would be able to step into the fifth realm. It would be even easier to compete for the throne of the Eastern Heavenly Lord. After asking about it, Yishuan did not continue to disturb Venerable Heaven Talisman. He left directly and stayed in this satellite city for a full 3 years. During these 3 years, most of the elite troops of the human race had advanced to Small Realm. Although the rest had not advanced, they were already on the verge of a breakthrough. What made Yishuan most gratified was that in these 3 years, Bian Xiaoya, the human emperor, and the sky-shaking Thunder Emperor had advanced a step further and reached the next realm. Chapter 3452. In these 3 years, Bian Xiaoya had finally stepped into the second realm of the Emperor realm. The human emperor had also smoothly advanced, becoming the next big sister Shaojing. The sky-shaking Thunder Emperor had truly stepped into the ninth realm, becoming one of the best among the emperors. The human race finally had an expert in the Emperor realm who could hold the fort. After all, they couldn't always let heavenly master experts take action. In these 3 years, because everyone's strength had increased, the overall strength of the human race's elite army had more than doubled compared to before. Because they were all top experts, their strength would increase exponentially every time they advanced to Small Realm. Yishuan had also slowly cultivated in these 3 years, but his cultivation progress wasn't great. Ever since he started cultivating, his cultivation had often increased explosively. There were very few times where he could truly show his painstaking efforts, especially when he had reached the Heavenly Master Realm. Any improvement would take hundreds or even thousands of years. A mere 3 years was too short for a Heavenly Master, and it was nothing at all. Because the position of a Heavenly Master was too high, every step they took forward was like cutting through thistles and thorns, opening up their own path. It was very difficult. Fortunately, Yishuan didn't have too much hope. It would still take some time for the World Tree fruit to mature. As long as the World Tree fruit matured, everything would be simple for him. However, time waited for no one. In just 3 years, he received news from the Wood Empress that the 9 great divine cities had gathered enough power to launch a battle to retake Moon City. This battle would gather the best of the best in the 9 great divine cities. It was even said that there would be super experts at the city lord level participating. In addition to the city lord of the Moon City, other city lords of the 9 great divine cities would also participate. Even so, he hadn't received an order to attack the Moon City with them. It was obvious that the reinforcements sent by the Fortune God dynasty had been excluded. This time, the 9 divine cities planned to seize back the Moon City with their own strength. They did not want the Fortune God dynasty's experts to have a chance to interfere. Although they were all part of the Fortune Divine Dynasty system, due to the long period of separation, coupled with the fact that the position of Middle Empyrean had been vacant for a long time, it was difficult for the Fortune Divine Dynasty to restrain the 9 great divine cities. At most, they were on equal footing just like the East, South, West, and North Empyreans. Even though Yishiwen had already guessed it, he still understood that even though the Fortune God dynasty was incomparably powerful, in reality, it was starting to feel a little powerless. Compared to the situation in the early days, where he could command countless followers with a single command, it was no longer comparable. As for the Fortune Divine Dynasty's East, South, West, North, and South Heavenly Venerables, as well as Space-Time Heavenly Venerables, were they really going to stand by and do nothing? Yishuin didn't believe that they would really do nothing. After all, this time, they weren't just here to support the Fortune God dynasty. They were here to decide who could become a Middle Empyrean and truly stand above everyone else. Once the Fortune God dynasty had a Middle Empyrean, it would be equivalent to a group of dragons having a leader. Everything would be much simpler. In this regard, Heaven Talisman Immortal seemed to have expected this and wasn't surprised. She had experienced too much. The Fortune God dynasty's matters were no secret to her ancient era. At this time, Yishiwen received an order from the East Heavenly Venerables to return to Sun City. As Yishiwen expected, whether it was the East, South, West, North, or South Heavenly Venerables, or Space-Time Heavenly Venerables, they wouldn't be willing to come empty-handed and leave empty-handed without accomplishing anything. Without exception, they all wanted to become Middle Empyreans and become the supreme existence of the Fortune God dynasty. Therefore, Yishuin expected that they would definitely take action. However, he didn't expect that they would act so quickly. Yishuin didn't bring Bian Xiaoya and the others with him this time, because they were still in closed-door cultivation to digest the results of the previous battle. Heaven Talisman Immortal didn't leave either. He chose to stay here to heal his injuries. Only Yishuin returned to Sun City alone and found the East Heavenly Venerables and the others. At this time, several great Empyreans in the East Heavenly Venerables camp had arrived. Whether it was the Silver Moon Clan Patriarch, War Master, or Mr. Huang, they had all arrived. Yishuin was the last one to arrive. Haha, our great hero is back. The East Heavenly Venerables saw Yishuin and immediately got up from the cloud bed in the hall. He welcomed Yishuin into the hall and said, I also heard that you killed several demon venerables. It can be said that you have completely won the Eastern region's honor. It was just a coincidence. These people came to die, so I will send them on their way. Yishuin said indifferently. He wasn't surprised that the East Heavenly Venerables already knew about it, because he didn't block the news. Therefore, it wasn't strange for anyone to know. Aha, well said. But even so, you've taken the lead. The experts of the other domains haven't started yet. Only you've killed the sacred hidden Demon Emperor. Then, you've killed the Demon Venerable Nimble Snake, Demon Venerable Extreme, Demon Monarch, and even the Demon Venerable Myriad Star. You're indeed powerful. If I'm not mistaken, you should have already entered the 4th realm. Eastern Lord laughed out loud and pointed out Yishuin's achievements one by one. However, he immediately revealed Yishuin's true cultivation level, and everyone in the hall was startled by this revelation. He didn't have a way to easily judge Yishuin's specific strength, but he knew the specific strength of Demon Venerable's Myriad Star. Among the ancient eras that were hostile to the Fortune God dynasty, the Demon Path era was one of the most powerful eras. They had some understanding of the powerful Empyreans, so they could judge, especially War Venerables. Compared to some time ago, he had made a lot of progress. Now, he had completely entered the 2nd realm and completely stabilized it. But he also understood that he could enter the 2nd realm of the Empyrean realm so smoothly mainly because of his many years of accumulation. In terms of experience, he was even more profound than many Empyreans in the Fortune God dynasty. It was just that he hadn't broken through. However, the cultivation power and comprehension he had accumulated over the years were massive. It was just that the sovereign emperor realm couldn't completely ignite him in the past. Now that he had stepped into the heavenly venerate realm, the original restraints had also disappeared. However, he also knew very well that successfully stepping into the second realm had already used up all his years of accumulation. What was left was either a great fortuitous encounter, or it would be like water dripping through a stone, grinding away bit by bit, just like he had done in the past. However, Yishuan was different from him. Now, Yishuan had actually stepped into the fourth realm. This was simply unreasonable. Yishuan's cultivation was almost in his eyes. From the beginning, Yishuan was not qualified to be on an equal footing with him. Later on, Yishuan could even surpass him. Yishuan's progress was too fast. How could there be any accumulation and foundation in such a realm? But it was under such circumstances that Yishuan stepped into the fourth realm without any hindrance. In this Fortune God dynasty that was affected by the Fate's secret key, surpassing the third realm was almost completely above most of the Empyreans. How much time did it take for Yishuan to reach this step? How could he not be shocked? And the Silver Moon clan patriarch looked as if he had seen a ghost. He was different from War Elder. When War Elder first met Yishuan, he was only in the Emperor realm. He had already entered the Empyrean realm a long time ago. When Yishuan first entered his eyes, it was also when Yishuan entered the Empyrean realm. And how many years had passed? It was only more than 10,000 years, but Yishuan had already trampled the majority of the Empyreans under his feet. If news of this were spread, how could they bear it? It really made him feel that there were talented people in every generation, and each generation was stronger than the previous one. I really didn't expect it. The Silver Moon clan patriarch couldn't help but say with emotion, compared to Taoist Wuzun, I really feel a little ashamed. I thought that after breaking through the heavenly barrier and entering the fourth realm, I should be a little ahead, but in the end, my plans can't keep up with the changes. Taoist Silver Moon, you broke through the heavenly barrier? Congratulations. Yishuan cupped his hands. For the Empyreans of the Fortune God dynasty, they had been trapped for many years, so their feelings at this time were understandable. It was originally something worth celebrating, but compared to Taoist Wuzun, it is just a small sorcerer in the presence of a great sorcerer. The Silver Moon clan patriarch couldn't help but say with a wry smile. He also wanted to be proud, but in front of Yishuan, it seemed that no miracle was enough. They were on the same side when it came to pushing the Eastern Celestial Master to the position of Middle Celestial Master. However, once they succeeded, they would face competition with each other. How could he not be selfish? As long as his realm steadily suppressed Yishuan's, it would be impossible for Yishuan to compete with him for the position of Eastern Celestial Master with his foundation and the prestige he had accumulated over the years. Everything was in the bag. But who knew that at this time, Yishuan would suddenly catch up? This made the significance of breaking through to the fourth realm much smaller, and the advantage was not so obvious. Okay, the three of you have made progress. For our camp, it is a great thing. Eastern Heavenly Master's face revealed a somewhat satisfied smile. He was confident that he could control everything, so the stronger the helpers in his camp, the more advantageous it was for him. However, we can talk about the celebration later. Now, let me first say the purpose of this gathering. We are going to attack an ancient era and take it down. Chapter 3453. However, we can talk about the celebration later. Right now, let me tell you the purpose of gathering you here. We are going to attack an ancient era and take it down. The Eastern Heavenly Venerate said heroically. His sharp eyes seemed to shine with a divine light. Even with Yishuan's willpower and courage, he was shocked by Eastern Venerate's words. He had never thought that Eastern Venerate would be so courageous. All of the ancient epochs had once been glorious existences, just like the martial epic. Even after the great shattering of the world, the ancient epoch could only linger on. Their foundations were not as strong, as the current martial epics. However, they still had many peak experts. Just like the demon epic, Yi Shiwen had killed several heavenly venerates. However, the demon epic was just a side faction. Although it was distressing to lose several heavenly venerates, it was not enough to shake the foundation. From this, it could be seen how terrifying the Demon Path era was. Of course, the Demon Path era was a peak era among the ancient eras. There weren't many that could compare to it, but even the weakest ancient era should have far more than just a few Empyreans guarding it. Eastern Venerate, Mr. Huang, Heavenly Venerate, Silver Moon, War Venerate, and Yi Shiwen combined. It was simply impossible to destroy an ancient era. Yi Shiwen had just stepped into the fourth realm. Heavenly Venerate Silver Moon's realm was similar to his. War Venerate was only in the second realm, far from the third realm. Although these people were not at the bottom of the Heavenly Venerates, they were not very strong. The only possible variables were Eastern Venerate and Mr. Huang, whose strength was unknown. This was also the only possible outcome that Yi Shiwen had imagined. Deep down, he was incomparably shocked. The Eastern Heavenly Venerate's style, boldness, and intelligence exceeded his expectations. He was originally curious. Why did Eastern Venerate dare to say that he could make great contributions on the ancient era battlefield and become a Middle Heavenly Venerate? It should be known that a Middle Heavenly Venerate was the nominal ruler of the Fortune God dynasty. To become a Middle Heavenly Venerate, strength was one aspect. However, without making great contributions, how could others be convinced? However, if Eastern Venerate really succeeded, then becoming a Middle Heavenly Venerate was just around the corner. East Lord, it's not that I'm a coward. It's just that with our strength, I'm afraid it's impossible for us to destroy an ancient era. After a pause, the War Sovereign said, "Ha ha ha, don't worry. Since I said that, I definitely have confidence." Eastern Heavenly Venerate laughed. He didn't change his attitude because of the War Master's words. As long as we can succeed this time, it can be said that the position of Empyrean is mine. No one will be able to stop me. The Eastern Heavenly Venerate laughed heartily and said, "Maybe you don't know, but there are some secrets that even Heavenly Venerates like you don't know. I only read about them in the most ancient records of the Fortune Divine Dynasty, which were left behind by the Fortune Divine Monarch. Do you know why our Fortune Divine Dynasty has been constantly fighting against those ancient eras since the day we established the epic battlefield? During this process, the Fortune Creation Heavenly Monarch ruthlessly destroyed several ancient eras, thus achieving the supreme Tao." Sure enough, everyone revealed a shocked expression. This was a secret even to them. Although the War Sovereign had once followed the Fortune Creation Heavenly Monarch to battle, he had never been to the epic battlefield. At that time, he had only just become an emperor, so he didn't even have the qualifications to come to the epic battlefield. After all, the epic battlefield of that era hadn't been as stable as it was now. With the 10 great divine cities suppressing the world, it could be said that it had been very difficult for the ancient eras to attack the epic battlefield. The fall of Moon City could only be considered an accident. However, in the early days of the Fortune Divine Dynasty, it was truly a chaotic era. All the ancient eras fought on the epic battlefield. Emperor-level experts died in batches on the epic battlefield. Peak emperors couldn't even protect themselves, and heavenly venerates fell in batches. It was an era where heroes emerged in large numbers, but at the same time, it was also an era where heroes fell. Many famous experts fell, and even the Fortune Creation Heavenly Monarch was no longer invincible. This kind of war lasted for many years, until the Fortune Creation Heavenly Monarch uprooted several ancient eras and achieved unparalleled martial arts. Only then did the epic battlefield was finally evaluated, and the 10 divine cities were left behind to suppress the ancient eras, not allowing those ancient eras to break into the Fortune Divine Dynasty. It must be known that in that era, the ancient eras slaughtered their way into the Fortune Divine Dynasty, sweeping away all obstacles. It wasn't just a legend, but a fact. The War Sovereign had just become an emperor at that time, and his cultivation base and experience were just a newcomer. so he could only stay in the fortune divine dynasty. Therefore, the war sovereign had only heard a lot about the epic battlefield and even the ancient eras, but he didn't know much about it. Could it be that the fortune creation heavenly monarch's attainment of the supreme great Tao is related to the uprooting of the ancient eras? Yishuan immediately thought of something and directly understood the most crucial information in the Eastern Venerable's words. Martial Venerable, your insight is really sharp. The Eastern Venerable nodded with a smile and said, our fortune divine dynasty and the ancient eras have been fighting against each other for millions of years. Everyone only knows that the ancient eras want to invade our fortune divine dynasty, enter the martial arts era, and seize the fortune of heaven and earth to strengthen themselves. However, they don't know that our fortune divine dynasty also wants to annihilate them, because annihilating them can also strengthen our fortune divine dynasty. The benefits are definitely not as simple as plundering the ancient era's resources. Everyone looked solemn and carefully listened to the Eastern Venerable's words. It was very likely that this was related to the mystery of the ancient eras. You should have heard of the legend about the replacement of eras, right? Among them, there is a legend about the heavenly Tao obtaining rebirth through continuous destruction and constantly perfecting itself until the legendary great Tao of eternal life, said the Eastern Venerable. Yes, everyone nodded. There was indeed such a legend, but such a legend was too grand, so grand that even the heavenly Venerables felt that it was far beyond their reach. Just the destruction of heaven and earth was already a very distant thing. Therefore, they did not think deeply about this matter. This legend is true, because the heavenly Tao we are in is also constantly improving and perfecting itself. Every time there is a destruction, a new era will evolve, and some of the past great Tao will be integrated to become more perfect. This is a self-improvement process, and the martial arts era was born because of this. Therefore, sooner or later, it will be destroyed like the other eras, said the Eastern Venerable. However, the heavenly Tao has a spirit. Although it has no consciousness, it is the collection of all spiritual wisdom in the world. Once the world falls into a destruction, countless creatures will die. Only the heavenly Venerables have the ability to protect a part of the creatures. Everyone else will die. Therefore, any creature in a martial arts era does not want the world to be destroyed, so this will become the will of the heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao also does not want to be destroyed like this. Yishuan nodded. No one wanted to be destroyed, even if the heavenly Tao was said to be able to improve and perfect itself. If it were him, and someone told him that when he reached the peak of his Tao, as long as he died, his next life would surpass this one, and he would step into a realm that he had never stepped into before, and he would see beautiful scenery that he had never seen before, he would also ignore it, because he only lived in this life. Whether it was the previous life or the next life, it was meaningless to him. He was a heavenly venerable, a person who had cut off the past and the future. In this life, he wanted to live the most wonderful life. Perhaps someone who walked the great Tao of reincarnation could also reach a very high level, but that person would definitely not be Yishuan. People with different paths could not make plans together. Therefore, he could understand the difference. The heavenly Tao itself did not have a will, but the will of all living beings was its will. Therefore, even the most tyrannical experts would rarely destroy a world, as they would suffer the backlash of the world power of this world. The world power of this world was the will of all living beings. It was very terrifying. Even if it did not hurt him once or twice, it would be enough to destroy him when it accumulated. Precisely because of this, anything that can extend the lifespan of our martial Tao epoch will be rewarded. Eastern Heavenly Venerables said, if we can break through an ancient era, we can plunder their heavenly Tao and offer it to the heavens. After the martial Tao epoch obtains the essence of the ancient era, the martial Tao epoch will be more perfect and will be able to delay the arrival of the Great Destruction. At the same time, because the Great Tao is more perfect, the destiny will be more exuberant, and it will be able to give birth to more and more powerful experts. We will also benefit a lot. Many people will have an easier time cultivating, and they will be able to continuously break through bottlenecks. The more perfect the heavenly Tao, the more resources there will be, and the heavenly Tao will be able to accommodate the existence of more cultivators. This is a great contribution to the heavens and the earth. Back then, the fortune creation heavenly monarch was able to stand out from the crowd because he personally uprooted several ancient eras and offered them to the heavens. He obtained great rewards. Among them, there were even powerful eras that could compete with the Devil Tao epoch. It was precisely because of this great contribution that the fortune creation heavenly monarch obtained endless benefits. Even with Yi Shiwen and the others' willpower, they could not help but feel a little shaken when they heard such a secret. They did not expect that this would involve the legendary fortune creation heavenly monarch, and especially the origin of the fortune creation heavenly monarch supreme status. Now, the Eastern Heavenly Venerable's goal was very clear. He wanted to replicate the success of the fortune creation heavenly monarch in the past, destroy the ancient eras, and offer sacrifices to the heavens in order to obtain great benefits. Chapter 3454. Even Yi Shiwen had to admit that the Eastern Heavenly Venerate's ambition was unimaginable. Exterminating the ancient era by offering sacrifices to the heavens, obtaining immeasurable benefits. Although it couldn't be compared to the fortune creation heavenly monarch, because the fortune creation heavenly monarch had brought the entire fortune divine dynasty's power to the ancient era, it was incomparable. Even so, these people would still be able to share a huge share of the benefits. Of course, the biggest benefit will be taken by the Eastern Heavenly Venerate. This was also a matter of course. He had been planning from the beginning to the end. In the end, he would definitely be at the forefront. Otherwise, it would be impossible to achieve it with just Yi Shiwen and the others. In the end, taking most of the benefits was also a matter of course. Of course, we can't compare to the fate creation heavenly monarch. However, even if it is only 1%, it is enough for us to achieve unprecedented glory, said the Eastern Heavenly Venerate. But please forgive me for being blunt. Although this plan seems good, the biggest problem is that we are not strong enough. With our strength, can we really destroy an ancient era? Yi Shiwen said directly. Although he guessed that the Eastern Heavenly Venerate might have some sort of trump card, he wouldn't foolishly follow him if he didn't ask about it. This wasn't just opposing a Heavenly Venerate, but destroying an ancient era. It was like a country wanting to destroy another country. Even if the country was extremely strong and the other country was extremely weak, a lion would still use its full strength to capture a rabbit. Moreover, the ancient era had not been so weak. Although the Silver Moon, Heavenly Venerate, and the War Master did not speak, their faces were also solemn because they had also thought of this point. Since you have asked, I will answer you. Although I dare not say that we are 100% confident this time, we are at least 70% or 80% confident, said the Eastern Heavenly Venerate. Everyone here is on the same side, so there are some things that I do not want to hide from everyone. This time, we are going to destroy the 7th Gold Era of the 5 Elements Era Alliance. 5 Elements Era Alliance? Yi Shiwen could not help but ask. Yes, the 5 Elements Era Alliance. I believe that you have more or less come into contact with the theory of the 5 Elements Era Alliance in the past. It is formed after the great ways left behind by the 5 Elements Era Alliance were integrated into our martial arts era. Eastern Heavenly Venerate explained. However, this 5 Elements Great Era Alliance doesn't only have one ancient era, but 5 great eras. These 5 great eras are the metal, wood, water, fire, and earth eras. These 5 great eras were born one after another, but because they were born very early, their great paths were relatively simple and not strong enough. Therefore, they faced the threat of other ancient eras and formed an alliance, which is the 5 Elements Great Era Alliance. This kind of situation is also very common in the ancient era. The strong are like the demonic Tao era, independent, and incomparably powerful. But there are also some ancient eras that are weaker, and they need to stick together for warmth, so they form alliances. Everyone nodded. This was very normal. If it were them, they would also choose to form an alliance. Any of the ancient eras in the Five Elements Epic Alliance is considered relatively weak. It's only because of the alliance that it's relatively strong. However, during the Great Apocalypse, it suffered heavy losses and was almost destroyed by powerful ancient eras like the Devil Epic. Although it resisted in the end, it suffered heavy losses. In this era, it's considered relatively low-key, not as active as the Devil Epic. The Eastern Empyreans said, but as long as it's an ancient epic, it's our mortal enemy. The Five-Element Epic Alliance also put in a lot of effort in capturing Moon City. This time, we can take advantage of the fact that their main forces are in Moon City to destroy their nest and sacrifice the seventh gold epic to the heavens to obtain great power. The Eastern Empyreans' words made everyone excited. However, Empyrean Silver Moon still raised a question. Eastern Empyrean, could it be that you've already found the seventh gold epic's nest? His words immediately made everyone understand. Indeed, in the long history of the Fortune Divine Dynasty, other than the few ancient eras that the Fortune Heavenly Monarch had uprooted, no other ancient eras had been destroyed. In addition to the fact that those ancient eras were also very strong, and the Fortune Divine Dynasty had to face the simultaneous attacks of many ancient eras, the most important factor was that they simply couldn't find the nest of these ancient eras. The nest of these ancient eras was basically the remnant world fragments left behind when their own era was destroyed. Later on, these ancient eras had slowly been transformed into their nest. These ancient eras placed great importance on the protection of their nest. Unlike contemporary eras like the Fortune Divine Dynasty, their nest was their last home. Once it collapsed, they would be finished. It was absolutely impossible for them to survive the next great apocalypse. Even an Empyrean would find it difficult to protect themselves, let alone those below the Empyrean realm. The so-called Empyrean could protect a group of people from surviving the great apocalypse, but the premise was that there was such a small world formed from the world fragments. Otherwise, it was almost impossible to achieve. Therefore, not only were these nests heavily guarded, but they were also very difficult to find. Their position and coordinates were constantly changing, so it was impossible to calculate. Even if there was a grandmaster proficient in the Tao of divination, it was also very difficult to calculate. Even if they could calculate it in an instant, their position would change again. It should be said that they were calculating all the time. Only the people inside the ancient eras could find their nest through a special method and then enter it. Of course, it didn't mean that all of this was foolproof and impossible to be found. Not to mention the several ancient eras that the Fortune Heavenly Monarch had destroyed, the Talisman Path era had been jointly attacked by the Devil Path era and several other eras. This meant that the position of these ancient eras could be found by others. It was just that this process was too difficult. That's right. We have successfully calculated the position of the Heptagold Epic. In fact, we have been calculating it for a long time. It has already been hundreds of thousands of years. Now that we have calculated it, we have even calculated the pattern of the Heptagold Epic's changes. It just so happens that they actually dared to send their main force to attack Silver Moon City. They are seeking death. The heavens want them destroyed. As the Eastern Empyrean spoke, a cold look flashed in his eyes. There were more than one or two ancient eras that had attacked Silver Moon City. Although the ancient eras rejected each other and had deep hatred for each other, when facing the martial epic, they would unite like never before. The Five-Element Epic Alliance had suffered heavy losses before, and the Demonic Path Epic was one of them. However, when it came to attacking Silver Moon City, they still joined forces. This was because the weaker an ancient era was, the more they desired to attack the current era. They were too weak and might not be able to survive the next great apocalypse. They urgently needed to attack the current era and plunder everything they could so that they could survive until the next great apocalypse. Therefore, even though they had been tricked by the Demonic Path Epic, the Five-Element Epic Alliance still joined forces with them. In the face of absolute life and death, any hatred was nothing. They never imagined that when they attacked Silver Moon City, their lair would be discovered by the Eastern Empyrean. This was the most terrifying thing. Now that their main force is not here, and they have yet to recover from their previous heavy injuries, it is the best time for us to eliminate them. The Eastern Empyrean said, although I don't know what the others are planning or what great merits they plan to make, as long as we take down the Heptagold Epic, the Middle Empyrean position is in the bag. No matter what merits they make, it will not be enough to overturn the heavens. When the Eastern Heavenly Venerable said this, he was incomparably confident. This might be the second time after the Fortune Heavenly Monarch that someone from the Fortune Divine Dynasty had uprooted an ancient era. Once this news spread out, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. This was the Eastern Empyrean strategy. Therefore, he did not probe the plans of the others because there was no need. In the face of absolute strength, all kinds of plots and tricks were meaningless. As long as one did his best, it already represented invincibility. Yishuan instinctively glanced at Mr. Huang. Perhaps the Eastern Empyrean's ability to calculate the location of the Heptagold Epic's lair had a lot to do with Mr. Huang. However, who was this Mr. Huang to have such an ability? He could not help but be a little interested. The Silver Moon Empyrean revealed an excited smile. If the Eastern Empyrean became a Middle Empyrean, then it was very likely that he would become the Eastern Empyrean. For the Silver Moon clan, this was undoubtedly the key to stepping into a higher level. Even he himself would obtain great benefits. Of course, the premise was that the Eastern Empyrean could become a Middle Empyrean. Now it seemed that this was very likely. In that case, there is no time to lose. Let's set off immediately. The War Venerable said excitedly. Although the position of the Eastern Empyrean had nothing to do with him, he had always been loyal to the Fortune God Dynasty. Being able to eliminate a strong enemy for the Fortune God Dynasty was enough to make him excited. Moreover, if the Eastern Empyrean became a Middle Empyrean, how could he miss out on benefits? Whether it was for public or private reasons, this matter should be done sooner rather than later. And the East Celestial Master said, this time, everyone put away the troops you brought. We have to hurry. Otherwise, the movement of the army will be too big. I'm afraid that some people have been waiting for news from us all this time. Everyone naturally understood that the people that the Eastern Empyrean was referring to were the Southern Empyrean, the Western Empyrean, the Northern Empyrean, the Space-Time Empyrean, and the others. Even the city lords of the 10 great divine cities would pay attention to it. Therefore, it must be kept a secret. Understood. All right, let's set off. Let's conquer the Heptagold Epic. Chapter 3455. Once the Eastern Heavenly Venerate decided, he would do it. With everyone's strength, there was no need to prepare. Although Yishuan didn't bring his human race army, it wasn't a problem. The human race's elite troops added up to only 1 million people. Although they couldn't be underestimated, their absence wouldn't greatly affect the combat power of the main force. Whether it was the Eastern Heavenly Venerate, Silver Moon, or Warlord, the elite troops that they brought were not only more numerous, but also far more elite than the current human race's elite troops. Even if the human race troops had generally improved by a small realm with Yishuan's help, and their strength had doubled, there was still a gap compared to the subordinates of the Eastern Heavenly Venerate. What was the foundation and what was the gap? This was it. After all, the human race's rise was too short. For ordinary people, they naturally had an overwhelming advantage. However, for experts like the Eastern Heavenly Venerate, Silver Moon, and Warlord, who had been famous for countless years, the gap was too big. For the Eastern Heavenly Venerate, the combat power that Yishuan represented was far superior to the human race army. As long as Yishuan was there, it didn't matter whether the human race army was there or not. Everyone flew out of Sun City and into the primal chaos almost one after another. Their actions immediately alerted everyone in Sun City, or rather, everyone who was interested in them. It wasn't a secret that the great heavenly venerates of the Fortune God Dynasty had brought their people to Sun City. In other words, there was no need to hide it. What kind of position was a middle heavenly venerate? It was the highest ruler of the Fortune God dynasty. How could they become a middle heavenly venerate just by scheming? That was simply impossible. Only with absolute merits and absolute strength could they make others have nothing to say, even if they weren't convinced. This was also the reason why no one had been able to sit in the middle Empyrean position ever since the Fortune Heavenly Monarch's disappearance. This position was equivalent to the Fortune Divine Dynasty's Vice-Emperor. Unless the Fortune Heavenly Monarch personally appointed someone to the position, or someone had performed an extraordinary meritorious deed, who could convince the masses. Therefore, the actions of the Eastern Heavenly Venerate and the others were also the focus of attention. When they left the city, various forces had already noticed them. Even now, a large number of experts had been transferred to the Moon City battlefield, but there were still many experts who followed them. Is there finally some action? On the other side of Sun City, the West Heavenly Venerate had a faint smile on her pretty face. The few of them were very clear about each other's plans. It was just that the Eastern Heavenly Venerate had made the first move while being restricted by the 10 great divine cities. From this, it could be seen that the Eastern Heavenly Venerate was definitely confident. However, they were also very interested in what exactly the Eastern Heavenly Venerate was planning. However, very quickly, she received news that she had lost track of him. However, she did not comment on it. This was already within her expectations. How could an ordinary person be able to track the Eastern Heavenly Sovereign when he personally took action? Only an expert of the same level as her would have a chance to follow her. However, the possibility was not high. If it were her, even the Eastern Celestial Sovereign would not be able to follow her. She had 100 ways to disappear without a trace. However, she also understood that as the Eastern Heavenly Venerate began to take action, the competition between the several Heavenly Venerates had officially begun. However, the current situation was not friendly. Not only were they competing with each other, but the 10 great divine cities were also not reliable allies. On the contrary, the 10 great divine cities would also become existences that would drag them down. This was a fight against the heavens, against the earth, and against the people. However, she only felt excited. She had been able to stand out among countless living beings and suppress many heavenly venerates to become the Western Heavenly Venerate. How could she be afraid of a challenge? This was also something that rarely excited her in recent years. Although she did not know what the Eastern Heavenly Venerate was planning, she did not panic. After all, she was essentially the same as the Eastern Heavenly Venerate. They both believed in one thing. In the face of absolute strength, all schemes were fleeting. As long as she did her best, then no matter what tricks her opponent used, they would not be able to change the fact that she had ascended to the middle Heavenly Venerate throne. At the same time, the Northern Heavenly Venerate, the Southern Heavenly Venerate, the Space-Time Heavenly Venerate, and the others also started to take action because of the Eastern Heavenly Venerate's actions. Now that the people of the 10 great divine cities refused to let them in, it was clear that they could not obtain enough merits on the battlefield. They had to think of other ways. At this moment, deep in the primal chaos, the Eastern Heavenly Venerate and the others had completely shaken off their pursuers. I have already sensed that we have completely shaken them off, the War Venerate said with some disdain on his face. As Heavenly Venerates, how could they be so easily tracked? Those people were really delusional. It doesn't matter. They're just some small fries. The Eastern Heavenly Venerate did not care. Naturally, he had already guessed who might have sent them. However, that would not affect the overall situation. They just needed to shake them off. The Eastern Heavenly Venerate moved extremely fast. In just a moment, they had already entered the depths of the primal chaos. Gradually, they felt that the influence of the martial epoc's heavenly way was getting weaker and weaker. Gradually, they could not feel it anymore. This also meant that they had already entered the depths of the primal chaos, the territory that truly belonged to the ancient era. Everyone became careful because they might encounter the ancient era in the primal chaos here. They continued moving forward for one day and one night. There was no day or night. They did not even know where they were. Even with the speed of a heavenly venerate, they still walked for 1 day and 1 night. Finally, everyone stopped. At that moment, Mr. Huang took a step forward. In his hand, there were tens of thousands of rays of light that turned into huge runes. In an instant, they were imprinted into the chaos. In the chaos, a huge formation was formed. On the formation, there were countless golden lines flowing in the chaos. Within these golden lines, there was an endless amount of information rising up. Even Yi Shiwen and the others could see the endless information rising with their naked eyes. Mr. Huang was in the center of the large array. Endless information poured into his body. Yi Shiwen could tell that this Mr. Huang was deducing something. If he did not guess wrong, he should be deducing everything about the seventh gold epoch. Although he already understood the operating rules of the seventh gold epoch, the seventh gold epoch was operating at every moment. He could only calculate the position of the seventh gold epoch anew. If he did not grasp the operating rules of an ancient era, just grasping their coordinates would be useless. This was because the seventh gold epoch's position would change in the next instant. He could only continuously calculate according to the rules. However, the process of this deduction was a very complicated process. Even with the mental calculation ability of a heavenly venerate, it was difficult to do so. He had to use this kind of special deduction large array to make deductions. Even if the trajectory of an era was grasped, it was still a very complicated thing. After a while, Mr. Huang finally stood up, but the large array under his feet did not dissipate. He opened his eyes and said, "I have already calculated his position. Let's go now." After saying that, Mr. Huang took the lead, and the others also followed him. After flying for about half a day, everyone felt another kind of great way pervading the air. They looked from afar and saw an incomparably huge world appearing in front of them. The operation of the Great Way in this world was different from any of the great ways that Yi Shiwen and the others knew before. The whole world looked like a world of Gengjin. There was golden brilliance everywhere. "The seventh gold great world. We have finally arrived," said Mr. Huang as he looked at the golden world. There was a bit of excitement in his voice. No one knew what was the reason for this. "Yes, we have finally arrived. After planning for hundreds of thousands of years, we are finally going to succeed." Eastern Heavenly Venerate couldn't help but reveal a smile on his face. They were finally going to succeed. Yi Shiwen opened his heavenly eye and saw that the seventh gold great path really ruled over everything in this world. The seventh gold great path could be seen everywhere. This was also the lair of the entire seventh gold era. Back then, after the Gengjin era was destroyed, only a small fragment was left. However, even a small fragment of an era was extremely huge to them. "Everyone, get ready to rush into the seventh gold great world." Eastern Heavenly Venerate ordered, and everyone released their armies one after another. Although they appeared suddenly, they were all elite armies after all. They had already been instructed beforehand, so they quickly stabilized. The elite army that the few of them had brought with them numbered in the tens of millions. Their overwhelming aura was like an overturning sea. Even though they were just standing there was an incomparably terrifying aura contained within them. In comparison, the troops that Eastern Heavenly Venerate brought were the most elite and also the most numerous. There were more than 20 million of them. In addition to dozens of sovereign emperors, this force was enough to wipe out a super sect. This showed how deep the Eastern Heavenly Venerate's foundation was. When this army of tens of millions appeared, it immediately triggered a reaction from the seventh gold great path. In particular, the seventh gold great path's heavenly path immediately launched a counterattack. Although it was no longer complete, it still greatly suppressed the martial great path's army. However, Eastern Heavenly Venerate was clearly prepared. Suddenly, a talisman flew out of his hand. The talisman grew larger and larger until it formed a huge seal character. This seal character immediately flew into the seventh gold great path sky. In an instant, the seventh gold great path's heavenly path pressure, which originally exerted a strong pressure on everyone, suddenly disappeared without a trace. This is the heaven-sealing talisman that the fortune creation heavenly monarch refined in order to eradicate the ancient era. It can temporarily seal the ancient era's heavenly Tao and prevent it from affecting us. Unfortunately, there's only one left. What a pity. Chapter 3456. This is the heaven-sealing talisman that the fortune creation heavenly monarch refined in order to eradicate the ancient era. It can temporarily seal the ancient era's heavenly Tao and prevent it from affecting us. Unfortunately, there is only one left. What a pity. The Eastern Venerate said regretfully. After using it this time, this heaven-sealing talisman will lose its effect. Otherwise, we could have eradicated several more ancient eras and achieved supreme merit. The Eastern Venerate's words were filled with regret. At his level, there were very few things that could make him feel an incomparable desire. However, this heaven-sealing talisman was one of them. It was a very important method to invade the ancient era. These people were outsiders to the seventh gold epoch. Invaders were like viruses invading the human body. They would be killed by the heavenly Tao. Although the heavenly Tao couldn't act directly, there were too many indirect methods. For example, it could turn the sky and earth upside down and create endless tsunamis. It could increase the strength of the experts in the seventh gold epoch by a lot in an instant. It could also increase their luck and allow them to pick up divine weapons when they went out to fight against external enemies. This would become the biggest problem for them to conquer the seventh gold epoch. This was also the seventh gold epoch's heavenly Tao's self-protection method. The more perfect the heavenly Tao, the more terrifying their self-protection method would be. Because of this, they had to use something like the heaven-sealing talisman to seal the heavenly Tao. This way, the seventh gold epoch's heavenly Tao would not allow the seventh gold epoch's experts to cheat. How could a normal person compare to a cheat? This was the method that Heavenly Lord Fortune Creation had used to eradicate several of the most rampant ancient eras. Unfortunately, he only had one left, and this heaven-sealing talisman was something that Eastern Lord Heavenly Lord had used many methods to obtain. If those ancient eras experts wanted to invade the Fortune Divine Dynasty, especially to capture a military stronghold like Moon City, they naturally had corresponding methods to deceive or even seal a part of the martial epoch's heavenly Tao. Only then would they have a chance of success. They had fought against each other many times in different eras, so they more or less had some tricks up their sleeves. Otherwise, it would be impossible to attack the heavenly way of an era. Just the heavenly way of that era was enough to kill as many invaders as possible. If a person wanted to fight against the heavenly way with his own strength, he would be courting death. However, this heaven-sealing talisman is already very impressive. Zhanzun couldn't help but ask. Only now did he understand where the Eastern Empyrean's confidence came from. The Eastern Empyrean had most likely prepared for a very long time for this battle to destroy the seventh gold era. He had thought of all aspects very thoroughly. I'm already very satisfied with such an opportunity. The Eastern Tianzun nodded and said. At the end of the day, he was not so arrogant as to dare to compare himself to the heaven creation heavenly Lord. After all, he was the strongest expert since the ancient times. Even after he had disappeared for countless years, no one could shake his throne. For the time being, he only wanted to become a Middle Empyrean. All right, let's not lament too much. Let's directly attack and exterminate the aged gold great era and offer sacrifices to their heavenly Taos. The Eastern Celestial Sovereign's heroic spirit reached the clouds. His loud and clear cry spread throughout the entire aged gold great world. The army under his command also seemed to have received an order and finally moved. This incomparably powerful army was like a war machine, indifferent and ruthless. Their strength was terrifying to the extreme. Tens of millions of troops charged forward, blotting out the sky and the sun. They were endless, almost like dark clouds. In an instant, they covered the entire aged gold great world. Looking from afar, it was extremely terrifying. Yi Shiwen and the others also followed and rushed into the aged gold great world. When they had just rushed to the edge of the aged gold great world, the aged gold great world's counterattack had already arrived. Although the heavenly Daos had been sealed, the aged gold great world's instinctive rejection of outsiders still made it react instinctively. The countless Gungjin Chi that had been swimming at the edge of the Gungjin major world instantly manifested, turning into countless weapons. There were Gungjin long swords, long sabers, long halberds, arrows, and all sorts of other weapons. In an instant, they had already pounced on Yi Qingyu. However, without the command of the heavenly Daos, these attacks did not pose a real threat to the elites and well-known figures of the martial epic. Only some of them were killed by the aged gold Qi. Most of them were blocked and continued to rush into the aged gold great world with unstoppable momentum. At this moment, the experts in the aged gold great world finally reacted. It seemed that they had never thought that someone could attack this far, so they did not put up much of a guard. However, they reacted very quickly. After all, the aged gold great world had been invaded once before. After learning that lesson, they immediately set up emergency measures. Who dares to invade our aged gold great world? A stern and dignified shout came from within. The response to this shout was tens of millions of arrows that rained down on the aged gold great world. These were the peak experts of the martial epic. Naturally, they were omnipotent in riding, archery, and combat. Their archery skills were also incredibly accurate. Just one arrow here had the horrifying might to shatter a mountain range and destroy an earth vein. Suddenly, in the Gungjin Great World, countless Gungjin nomological laws appeared. The dazzling nomological light illuminated the entire Gungjin Great World. Under the effect of these Gungjin nomological laws, the rain of arrows that blotted out the sky and covered the earth came to a complete halt. It was as if time had stopped. It was as if countless big hands had reached out and directly caught the endless arrows. Suddenly, there was an explosive shout. The boundless arrow rain suddenly changed direction and flew back in the direction they came from. It looked like they were about to enter the martial epic's army when a huge hand suddenly grabbed them and instantly crushed the arrow rain into powder. At the crucial moment, the Eastern Celestial Venerate had made his move. At this moment, in the aged gold great world, a figure filled with golden light, looking like he was made of gold, appeared before everyone. He gave off a berserk aura as if he could destroy the world. Seeing this figure appear, Mr. Huang's eyes immediately turned bloodshot. He immediately flew over and said, "Aged gold great ancestor emperor, do you still remember me? So, it is you the traitor. Not only did you betray the aged gold epic, but you even lured the martial epic's people here. Damn it!" The aged gold great ancestor emperor, who looked like he was made of gold, glared angrily and raised his two golden eyebrows. Clearly, Xiao Chun recognized Mr. Huang. Furthermore, he was no stranger to the people of the martial epic, as the martial epic was the main character of this epic. Their auras were simply too obvious. How could Xiao Chun not recognize them? Without thinking too much, he already guessed what was going on. It was because Mr. Huang led the way that the martial epics experts were lured over. However, it was also because of an insider leading the way that they could find the aged gold epic so easily. As the saying goes, 1,000-mile dike can be destroyed by an ant's nest. Guarding day and night is hard to guard against a thief from within. Thinking of this, the anger in his heart surged like a raging sea. Yishuin slightly nodded. He had long guessed that this Mr. Huang might be a person from the ancient era. However, he hadn't thought that this Mr. Huang would actually be a heavenly master of the 7th Gold Era. How much hatred did he have for the 7th Gold Era that he would personally bring people to destroy his own era? As a celestial venerate of the aged gold epic, the destruction of the aged gold epic must have had a huge impact on him. Could there be some hidden reason? Hee traitor. Mr. Huang sneered slightly. Fine metal ancestor emperor. This is really ridiculous. Don't you feel guilty when you say this? You deliberately forced me to leave. You should have known that this day would come. The winner takes all. What else do you have to say? The fine metal ancestor emperor said unyieldingly, as if he had no intention of repenting at all. What a good the winner takes all. If that's the case, then forget it. You shouldn't have sent little junior sister as a gift to the devil epic's happy demon lord in order to prolong your hunger. I was willing to leave the aged gold epic and vowed never to set foot in the aged gold epic again. My only request was that you take good care of her. In the end, what did you do? Mr. Huang looked ferocious and almost went crazy. You promised very well before, but in reality, do you still have the face to blame me? Yi Shiwen and the others were in an uproar. They didn't expect that there was such a hidden story, especially when the Five Elements Epic Alliance was attacked by the Devil Epic last time. But in the end, it survived and wasn't destroyed like the Talisman Epic. So there was such a story behind it. So, it's Happy Demon Venerate. That guy is notorious. Even I have heard of him. Although he is one of the strongest people in the Devil era, he is a despicable person. Silver Moon said as she looked at the adamantine ancestor emperor with a look of disdain. What do you understand? All of this is for the survival of the aged gold epic. How weak are we now? The next great apocalypse may be the time for us to be destroyed. You just left like that. Do you know how difficult it is to maintain the aged gold epic? The fine metal ancestor emperor's expression finally began to become a little emotional. Little junior sister was also an eternal pain in his heart. In order for the aged gold epic to survive, you sent little junior sister away. Do you know that little junior sister's power was sucked dry by Happy Demon Lord and turned into a magic puppet? If that's the case, then I will personally destroy this aged gold epic. Anyway, I'm already prolonging my hunger, right? If that's the case, then let's destroy it. Chapter 3457. You're seeking death. Do you think that you could destroy my heptagold epic with just a few people? The adamantine ancestor emperor sneered. He was completely confident. Although the heptagold epic was relatively weak among the ancient epics, no matter how weak it was still an epic that had once dominated an era. In his opinion, destroying them with just the Eastern Venerate and the others was no different from a fool's dream. Normally, it might be a little weaker. However, since you sent the majority of the troops to attack Moon City, how much strength can be left here? Mr. Huang said carelessly, without the help of the heavenly Tao, do you think you can stop us? Although it was the heptagold epic that gave birth to him and raised him, there was no pity in his eyes. He only wanted to destroy it to vent the hatred in his heart. Then come a try. The adamantine ancestor emperor only sneered. You guys split up and attack first. Leave him to me. Mr. Huang waved his hand. All right, be careful. The Eastern Venerate did not say anything more. Clearly, he already knew about the hatred in Mr. Huang's heart. How could he trust someone from the ancient epic so much if he did not know everything about him? Since even the Eastern Venerate said so, Yi Shiwen and the others naturally had no objections. They knew that attacking the heptagold epic as soon as possible was the right thing to do. It should be known that although the heaven-sealing talisman could temporarily seal the heavenly Tao, it was not eternal. Once the battle was in a stalemate, the heavenly Tao might break out. At that time, with the support of the heavenly Tao, the strength of the heptagold epic would increase exponentially. It would pose a huge threat to them. Under the command of the Eastern Venerate and the others, the army moved out in a single file. They went around the two sides and directly attacked the heptagold epic. You want to go over? Have you asked me? The adamantine ancestor emperor roared and waved his hand. He instantly tore apart the void and covered the martial epic's army, wanting to capture them all in one fell swoop. What horrifying strength! This adamantine ancestor emperor is probably above the seventh realm. Yi Shiwen was inwardly shocked. Unlike the Fortune God dynasty, these ancient eras naturally couldn't be compared to the martial Tao era in terms of foundation. Every time there was a great shattering of heaven and earth, ordinary creatures would suffer heavy casualties. However, the peak experts among them could withstand the destruction of the world again and again. This accumulation was terrifyingly deep. Due to the destruction of the heavenly Tao, only a few remained, struggling for breath. It was hard for them to advance valiantly like the experts of the martial epic, gaining the protection of the heavenly Tao. However, after accumulating for a long time, they were still horrifying. Even if it was just like a tortoise crawling with the passage of time, after experiencing so many great catastrophes, he would still become a peerless expert. In other words, as long as one could cultivate for countless years, even a pig could become an unparalleled expert. Of course, the prerequisite was that the pig could survive for so many years. Above the seventh realm of heavenly venerate, one could go anywhere in the world. One could practically be said to be unstoppable. Such a peak expert was already on the market. This was practically an earth-shattering situation. This hand was simply too terrifying. It was as if it could split the heavens and earth apart. A single hand could cover an entire galaxy. Any kind of defense could not stop this gigantic hand at all. Just as this huge golden hand covered the martial epic's army of tens of millions, another huge hand suddenly shot out. It was another huge golden hand. Rumble. The two huge hands clapped together fiercely, and the huge hand created by the adamantine ancestor emperor was instantly smashed into powder. At this moment, Mr. Huang stepped forward and said, "I'll handle this. You all leave quickly. There's no need to care about me." Earlier, Mr. Huang had made a move which allowed him to easily block the adamantine ancestor emperor's attack. "You have completely submitted to the martial epic. Humph. Let's see how you die." The adamantine ancestor emperor sneered. A golden spear had appeared in his hand, and he thrust it directly at Mr. Huang. The light that erupted from the spear was incomparably dazzling, as though it had covered the light emitted by the stars in the Gungjin major world. This spear was simply too horrifying. Even if ordinary creatures were just grazed by the explosion's shock waves, they would still suffer millions of casualties. There was simply no way to resist it. At this moment, a golden staff appeared in Mr. Huang's hand. He swung it down and ruthlessly clashed with the spear. Rumble. The aftermath of the battle between the two sides was extremely terrifying, but not even a speck of it splashed out. All of it was blocked by a ripple. It was the adamantine ancestor emperor and Mr. Huang who worked together to seal off the aftermath of the battle. Mr. Huang did not want the shock waves to injure the martial epic's army, and the adamantine ancestor emperor did not want the aged gold great realm to be destroyed. Both of them consciously started to control the shock waves, preventing a terrifying storm from erupting. Just at this moment, the army of the boundless martial epic charged into the heptagold great realm. Although the adamantine ancestor monarch woke up first and made a move to block them, delaying them for only a short time. This was not enough for the aged gold great realm's army to completely organize themselves. They often organized themselves and soared into the sky, trying to stop the martial epic's army. However, they were defeated in an instant. Before the martial epic's army, which held absolute strength, the aged gold great realm's army was not a match at all. They could not stop them and were wiped out in a short time. Without the help of the aged gold great realm's heavenly Tao, the aged gold great realm's army simply could not contend with the martial epic's army, which was much weaker. Furthermore, the eastern heavenly venerates and the other heavenly venerates took turns to crush the aged gold great realm's army. Hence, the martial epic's army practically advanced, sweeping through everything in its path. There was no obstruction at all. This was because they were going to sacrifice the aged gold great realm in the end. Hence, they did not hold back. It was not like when they fought in the Fortune Divine Dynasty, where they had to pay attention to etiquette. Here, they just killed everyone. No matter what kind of life form it was, it would be killed, unable to survive. However, most of these aged gold great realm life forms were born from the aged gold chi. They were all very strong, much stronger than the ordinary life forms of the Fortune Divine Dynasty. Of course, the Seventh Gold Great Era had experienced many great catastrophes, so how could there be any truly ordinary creatures that could survive? Those ordinary creatures couldn't even survive, let alone others. This was not a vendetta, but a war between two epochs. There was only one reason for the martial epoch and the ancient epoch to fight each other: to survive. If the aged Gold Great Realm had the opportunity, they would invade the Fortune Divine Dynasty and start a massacre, plundering resources, the Great Tao, and luck. This would allow them to survive the next great apocalypse more easily. The martial epoch also wanted to break through these ancient epochs and sacrifice them to the heavens to extend the martial epoch's lifespan. As the life forms of the martial epoch, the longer the martial epoch existed, the more benefits they would obtain. They would become stronger and more likely to truly break through to the great Tao of eternal life. This had nothing to do with vendetta. It was just for survival. Such a massacre finally startled another heavenly venerate ancestor of the aged Gold Great Realm. He immediately charged out and saw the martial epoch's people massacring everyone. He could not help glaring at this scene, feeling like his chi and blood flowed backward. This ancestor roared and directly killed thousands of martial epoch elites. Then, he brazenly attacked the martial epoch's army. Just at this moment, heavenly venerate Silver Moon suddenly roared and charged out, clashing with this heavenly venerate ancestor of the aged Gold Great Realm, blocking him in an instant. The battle between the two sides instantly erupted, charging into the depths of the aged Gold Great Realm's starry river. Boundless stars shattered in an instant, looking like they were splitting heaven and earth apart. Both sides instantly executed their unimaginable secret techniques. Although the aged Gold Great Tao appeared very early, it had its own outstanding aspects and was very incredible. On the other side, heavenly venerate Silver Moon was no pushover. She held up a silver moon in her hand, shattering everything in her path. No one could block her. Both sides were simply evenly matched, like a general meeting a talented general. They immediately fought each other, and it was difficult to separate them. Come, let's continue forward. The Eastern Heavenly Venerate only glanced at the battlefield between Heavenly Venerate Silver Moon and that ancient Heavenly Venerate before continuing to give orders. Such a scene was not enough to move him. This was because they were fighting an epic-ending war. Before an epic-ending war, the extermination of nations and races was just child's play. He did not have much time to waste, as the heaven-sealing talisman could not seal the aged Gold Great Tao forever. The Eastern Heavenly Venerate gave the order, and the army continued to sweep through the depths of the aged Gold Great Realm. Yishiwen and the War Venerate were like two arrowheads, shouldering the heavy responsibility of sweeping through everything. The two no longer held back and directly attacked, continuously crushing the aged Gold Great Realm's resistance. They also knew that time was tight. The martial epoch's army followed closely behind the two, sweeping up the remnants. The speed at which this army swept through was too fast. In just a short time, they had already killed their way into the center of the aged Gold Great Realm. During this process, the Eastern Heavenly Venerate did not make a move. Instead, he watched indifferently. However, he seemed to be preparing for something. There were faint, incomparably strong fluctuations of magic power forming ripples around him. When the army swept all the way to the center of the Gungjin Great World, Eastern Celestial Venerate finally made his move. He let out a long roar, and the spiritual power in his body formed a large array in a strange way. With him as the core, it spread out and completely surrounded the entire Gungjin Great World. Martial Venerate, War Venerate, protect me. I want to sacrifice myself to the heavens. Chapter 3458. Yi Shiwen and Zhan Zun instantly understood the Eastern Celestial Venerate's purpose. He was sacrificing himself to the heavens. At this moment, he actually wanted to destroy the seventh gold epoch by himself. The Great Formation with the Eastern Celestial Venerate as its core covered the entire Seventh Gold Epic. It was a sacrificial Great Formation. Rumble. In an instant, everyone felt that the entire Seventh Gold Epic was in the Seventh Gold Great World started to shake violently. It was like everything was disintegrating. Mountains, rivers, seas, time, space, everything was disintegrating. This was the start of the world being sacrificed. At this moment, the martial epic's heavenly Tao, which everyone could no longer feel, suddenly appeared again. Under the guidance of the Great Formation, it started to receive the entire Seventh Gold Epic. If the martial epic devoured the Seventh Gold Epic, it could extend its existence by a lot. This was a confrontation between two epics, a collision of two epics. Because it felt the existence of the martial epic, the Seventh Gold Epic's heavenly Tao started to struggle violently, tried to escape from the heaven-sealing talisman. It felt the aura of destruction. This aura was even more horrifying than the Great Apocalypse. This was because there was still life after the Great Apocalypse. However, if it was devoured by the martial epic this time, there would be no life at all. The Seventh Gold Epic's heavenly Tao represented the will of countless living beings in the Seventh Gold Epic. No living being wanted to be destroyed. The more this was the case, the stronger its will to resist. Furthermore, this was not something that the martial epic could cover. Soon, the Eastern Celestial Venerate felt an intense resistance. His expression gradually turned unsightly. At this moment, the Eastern Celestial Venerate finally discovered that he had underestimated the difficulty of sacrificing an epic. Even if his heavenly Tao was sealed, he would still receive an intense backlash. He would receive the instinctive backlash of this world, this opportunity, and this great Tao. Just this alone made him feel very uncomfortable. According to legend, the Fortune Creation Heavenly Lord had uprooted those ancient epics and sacrificed them. It did not seem difficult and was completed very smoothly. However, this did not mean that it was not difficult. It was because the Fortune Creation Heavenly Lord was too strong. The Fortune Creation Heavenly Monarch was invincible because of his peerless strength. If it were him, the disparity between them would immediately become apparent. With his wisdom, it wasn't difficult for him to guess the problem that the Eastern Venerable had encountered. It wasn't easy to forcefully sacrifice the Seventh Gold Era. Although the Heavenly Way had been sealed, the body of the Seventh Gold Era was still intact. It was just that many creatures had been slaughtered, but it hadn't reached the point of complete destruction yet. Yi Shiwen quickly discovered the Eastern Venerable situation. Naturally, he would suffer a great counterattack. At this moment, another Seventh Gold Era's Celestial Venerate flew out. He was much weaker than the previous two, but he was still a Celestial Venerate with unimaginably terrifying strength. With his strength and foundation, a War Venerate's foundation was child's play. At this time, the Zhanzun shot forward and blocked him outside the army. The two of them instantly charged into the starry sky. This was because he knew very well that the Eastern Venerable couldn't be disturbed at this time. Otherwise, all their efforts would be in vain. This was also why the Eastern Venerable wanted him and Yi Shiwen to protect him together. Therefore, he used his trump card almost immediately and dragged this Seventh Gold Era's Celestial Venerable all the way into the starry sky, forcibly isolating him. At this time, only Yi Shiwen was left beside the Eastern Venerable. The battlefield was also divided into several parts. The various armies were also under the leadership of the Emperors, constantly attacking and destroying the Seventh Gold Era's experts. These experts didn't have any leaders. Even if an Emperor appeared, Yi Shiwen would kill them. They couldn't organize a decent defense and were no match for the Martial Epic's army. This army was definitely the best of the Martial Epic. Among them, the Emperors were mostly in the 7th Realm, 8th Realm, and even peak Emperors. The 7th Gold Era's experts were killed the moment they flew up. They couldn't do anything at all. Yi Shiwen stood guard beside the Eastern Venerate, watching him struggle more and more. Although the Eastern Venerate borrowed a portion of the martial epoch's heavenly Tao's power, he still could not completely suppress the seventh metal epoch's will and worship him. As time went by, the battle between the heavenly venerables became more and more intense. It was hard to tell who had the upper hand. It wasn't like the martial epoch's army, which could sweep through everything. However, the problem was that as time went by, the heaven's sealing talisman was gradually weakening. Once the seventh gold era's heavenly law broke free again, they would definitely fail this time. At that time, the consequences would be unimaginable. Not even 1/10 of the tens of millions of soldiers would be able to escape. Some of the heavenly venerables would also die. The heavenly law and its rage was extremely terrifying. Its anger came from the anger of all living beings. It was extremely terrifying. At this time, Yishuan finally couldn't sit still. He suddenly stood up and said to the Eastern Venerable, "I'm going to destroy the seventh gold era's ley lines and completely destroy the seventh gold era. Otherwise, if this continues, the seventh gold era's heavenly law will break free soon." The Eastern Venerable nodded. In the end, he didn't reject Yi Shiwen's suggestion. The so-called will of the heavenly law was the will of all living beings. If all living beings were destroyed, everything in the world would be destroyed, and the heavenly law would naturally cease to exist. This was the fastest and best way to take drastic measures. However, he also knew that he would share a lot of the credit with Yi Shiwen. However, he had no other choice. This was because he discovered that there was a fundamental problem with his previous plan. Without personally trying to uproot an ancient era, it was impossible to understand how horrifying the difficulty of this matter was. Just by looking at the fortune creation Heavenly Lord's actions, one might even have the illusion that this matter was very simple. Previously, he had underestimated the difficulty of this matter. At the same time, he had overestimated himself. Now that he thought about it, he realized how naive he had been. Fortunately, he had made a lot of preparations for this matter. He had even found a peerless treasure like the heaven sealing talisman that had been lost for generations. Otherwise, he would have been defeated as soon as he started. However, this matter was related to whether he could become a middle heavenly lord. There was no room for any accidents. Becoming a middle heavenly lord was almost guaranteed. However, if he failed, the consequences would be unimaginable. After Yishuan received the Eastern Heavenly Venerate's reply, he immediately flew out like an arrow, and then suddenly rushed into the underground of the aged gold world. The earth of the golden hepta great world was composed of countless golden hepta energies. It was priceless even in the fortune god dynasty. However, it was useless to the current Yishuan. All he could do was collect all the golden hepta energies that passed by. This could also greatly increase the foundation of the human race. He went all the way to the deepest part of the aged gold world. In the deepest part of the aged gold world, countless aged gold chi suddenly emerged. The earth of a world was the place where the will of the world was the most profound. Almost instantly, countless aged gold chi turned into countless terrifying attacks that swept towards Yi Shiwen. Roar! Yi Shiwen let out a long roar. In an instant, these attacks were completely turned into nothingness. They couldn't hurt Yi Shiwen at all, and Yi Shiwen also went on a killing spree, directly attacking. One after another, the golden hepta chi formed a dragon. The earth veins were tumbling, but they were all caught by Yi Shiwen, and then killed, instantly turned into golden hepta chi that filled the sky, and then was collected by him. In addition to the aged gold chi, there were many other metal attribute laws. All kinds of existences suppressed the entire aged gold world. However, they were all destroyed by Yi Shiwen. Without these earth dragons and the earth veins guarding, disasters began to occur frequently in the aged gold world. All kinds of volcanoes erupted, heaven and earth began to collapse, the earth began to split, and the oceans disappeared and dried up. This was something that could only happen when a world was about to enter the rhythm of destruction. And this aged gold world was the current base camp of the aged gold era. Once the aged gold world was destroyed, the entire aged gold era would be finished. There would be no chance of a comeback. And at this moment, the world's will of the aged gold world finally awakened. In the depths of the earth, a figure emerged. With lightning speed, a golden light swept towards Yishuan. This golden light was extremely brilliant. It seemed to be able to collapse the entire world. There was a scene of the beginning of the world. Yishuan instantly raised his hand to block it. In an instant, there was a sound that sounded like gold and iron colliding. Dang! There was an incomparably loud sound. Yishuan only felt that his arm actually began to feel slightly numb. His physical body had been transformed by the world tree fruit. It could be said to be incomparably strong. Now, just a simple collision made him feel numb. One could imagine how strong this golden light was. And right in front of him, this golden light revealed its original appearance. Right in front of him, the golden light revealed its original appearance. It was a cold creature covered in golden light, and its face could not be seen clearly. This creature was about the height of a person, and its entire body was wrapped in endless golden light. Its body had the power to destroy heaven and earth, as if the sun, moon, and stars were circulating within it. However, this sun, moon, and stars was not the sun, moon, and stars of the martial epoch, but the sun, moon, and stars of the seventh gold epoch. It was a completely different system. So it's something born from the aged gold ancestral chi that carries the world's will. Yishuan was extremely shocked. This aged gold ancestral chi was possessed by the world's will. It should be something that would only appear during the early stages of the aged gold era. It should not be seen at all now. But now, because the world was about to be destroyed, it had reappeared. Although the recovery ability of the Gungjin ancestral chi was terrifying, Yishuan wasn't flustered because he believed that everything had its own limits. Once it went too far, it would collapse. The surrounding universe of the aged gold great world shattered, and the underground earth veins exploded. The might of Yishuan's Fortune Universe palm had been displayed to the extreme under the support of the boundless manifestation's hand. The entire underground was trembling, and the entire world was collapsing. The divine might of the extreme way bloomed, and endless auspicious lights gushed out. Bang! Each of Yishuan's arrows was aimed directly at its vital parts. It was extremely terrifying. At this moment, the martial way of his archery was burning. At this moment, he had truly transformed into a terrifying archery master. With a longbow in hand, he could destroy a world. This was Yishuan's current state. It was just a pity. It was like watching a peerless treasure being destroyed in front of him. Because it was forcibly awakened, it was injected with the will of the heavenly way, which was also the will of all living beings. However, its fate was ultimately interrupted. Although it had the combat power of a heavenly master as soon as it was born, it seemed to be no different from the birth of a great master. In fact, the difference was too great. It was impossible to make any greater progress in the future. Whoosh! The sound of the bowstring vibrating was accompanied by the sharp sound of breaking through the air. The divine arrow shot directly towards the aged metal ancestral chi. If such a character had been born in the aged metal era, he would have even grown into a character like the Lord of Heaven creation. Unfortunately, the aged metal era was already ruined. A true dragon could not be nurtured underwater. If he was born too late, the result would be like this. The opportunities that he could obtain would also be cut off. He did not use that singing technique again. Instead, his hands turned into a world and directly slammed down. The simple exchange just now made him understand the power of the physical body of the powerhouse formed by the aged metal ancestral chi. How could a simple divine arrow shoot him to death so easily? This was the so-called heaven is watching. It was not that the time had not yet come. For Yishuan, this was meaningless. No matter how powerful his foundation was, it was useless if he could not transform. With a loud roar, the aged metal ancestral chi smashed the divine arrow shot by Yishuan on the spot with just one punch. However, before it could further attack Yishuan. It was as if this aged metal ancestral chi had existed at the beginning of the aged metal era's evolution. However, until the aged metal era was destroyed, and after experiencing many great catastrophes, it still did not take shape. It could only exist in the form of the aged metal ancestral chi. Any creature from the aged metal era could only retreat. They did not dare to block it at all. Even if they were swept by the aftermath, they would explode and turn into a pool of flesh and blood. Even an emperor-level powerhouse was no exception. An incomparably loud sound came. Yishuan's universe creation palm seemed to have reversed the world. With the power of heaven and earth, it smashed onto the aged metal ancestral chi. However, Yishuan immediately realized that this was also an opportunity for him. As long as he erased the consciousness of the aged metal era's heaven way, it would be restored to its original form. It would be restored to the aged metal ancestral chi, which was another rare divine material. Whoosh! Yishuan did not hold back at all. His cultivation of the fourth realm completely broke out. Facing this aged metal ancestral chi, he completely broke out. Whoosh! The law armor on the aged metal ancestral chi's body collapsed in an instant. No law could stop his attack. It was interrupted on the spot. Even the space where he stood was smashed into pieces. This aged metal ancestral chi was unbelievably tyrannical. However, Yishuan was not to be trifled with. In fact, he was even stronger and more terrifying. Next, the aged metal ancestral chi let out a long roar. His fists were like iron cannons as he directly blasted out to resist the universe creation palm. However, no matter how angry he was, it was useless because he couldn't stop Yishuan. On the contrary, Yishuan kept shooting divine arrows, forcing him to retreat step by step. Although he could catch the arrows with his bare hands, it didn't mean that the divine arrows didn't hurt him at all. He just kept retreating because of those simple arrows. Facing the countless divine arrows that pierced through the air, the aged metal ancestral chi was not in a hurry. He directly punched out and created fist shadows that covered the sky. He directly faced the divine arrows and smashed them into pieces on the spot. The entire underground was blasted into the atomic state. A large area was vacated. Just the aftermath of the explosion almost destroyed the foundation of the earth veins. This was the terrifying power of a battle between heavenly masters. Gung Jin ancestral chi had just steadied himself, so how could he resist? He didn't even have time to summon his nomological armor. Although he had the infinite support of the Gung Jin era, he wasn't invincible, nor was he omnipotent. He was blasted away on the spot, and his Gung Jin ancestral chi body shattered on the spot. However, he immediately recovered. With the support of the will of the heavenly path, he wouldn't even become weak. This was the most terrifying aspect. Ordinary celestial venerables simply couldn't compare. Universe creation palm. The last one was the killer move. In other words, Yishuan was now close to the bottom line of the aged metal era. In order not to be destroyed, the aged metal era was also going all out. He directly integrated the will of the heavenly way into the aged metal ancestral chi and evolved such a top expert to stop Yishuan. If he had come into the world with great success, his future would be limitless. He would become a peerless expert that could shake the long river of time. He could move unhindered through endless eras. But now that he had come into the world forcefully, even if he had the combat power of a heavenly master, it was only at this level. Yishuan rushed up again. A big hand turned into a world and slashed down again. It was as if the entire world had been integrated into it. It was very terrifying. He made a strong move. Endless golden light condensed on his body into a long bow. He pulled it directly. There were no arrows, but he just grabbed the void and grabbed a galaxy, which turned into a divine arrow. It contained his terrifying mind that could split the heavens and the earth. In an instant, it shot towards the aged metal ancestral chi. The aged metal ancestral chi was also expressionless. He was instilled with endless fighting thoughts by the will of the heavenly way. Only his fighting instincts were left, and he turned into a terrifying supreme. However, since this aged metal ancestral chi had come into the world ahead of time, the original should be meaningless to him. The existence of this kind of foundation was difficult to find in the world. It was difficult to find 3 to 5 in an era. But to nurture a matchless character or matchless magic weapon, it would take far more time than ordinary people could imagine. Very soon, the aged metal ancestral chi was suppressed. This aged metal ancestral chi's foundation was terrifying enough, and the body it transformed into was extremely powerful. But if it wanted to compete with Yi Shiwen in terms of martial arts and comprehension of the realm, it was still too far away. Buzz, seeing this, the aged metal ancestral chi was furious. He represented the will of the heavenly way of the aged metal era. Seeing this scene, how could he not be angry? But Yi Shiwen had no intention of stopping. I want to see how many palms you can take from me. Luck was extremely important to a cultivator. Chapter 3460. Although ordinary heavenly venerables were said to have boundless magic power and remarkable abilities, they all had their limits. Humans had their limits, but the heavens were endless. At least, humans could not explore the limits of the heavenly way's power. And now, the expert formed by the gung metal ancestral chi carried the will of the heavenly way and added the power of the heavenly way into it. It truly embodied what was endless. You can't kill me. A strange, hoarse voice came into Yi Shiwen's mind. Although Yi Shiwen had never heard it before, it did not prevent him from judging that this was the voice of the gung metal ancestral chi. This was his will, the will that was instilled into it. I can't kill you, huh? Yi Shiwen laughed heartily. In the end, you're just a puppet that's being manipulated. Don't you hate the fact that you've come into being ahead of time and ruined all your opportunities? I hate you, but I hate you even more. The voice of the gung metal ancestral chi contained boundless hatred. It contained the anger of being forced into being, but contained the resentment of the countless beings and things that were about to be killed and destroyed in the gung metal era. All of it gathered together and vented towards Yi Shiwen. The will of the heavenly way was the will of all beings. The world was about to be destroyed. The anger of all beings could be imagined. However, Yi Shiwen had nothing to say. This was not a vendetta, but a collision between two eras for survival. For me, there is nothing that the universe creation palm can't solve. If there is, then I'll give you another palm. Let's see how many palms you can take. Yi Shiwen was also ruthless. He directly launched another universe creation palm. Each palm greatly consumed his king-level dragon vein. After a series of uses, that incomplete king-level dragon vein was on the verge of disappearing. However, Yi Shiwen did not regret it. If he did not have this incomplete king-level dragon vein, how could he have advanced so quickly? As long as he could sacrifice the gung metal era this time, the benefits he would obtain would be unimaginable. With the help of the martial epic's heavenly way, it would undoubtedly be much easier for him to ascend to the Eastern Heavenly Lord position. Be willing, be willing. You can only gain by giving up. Yi Shiwen had long understood this principle. Another palm strike of the universe creation palm struck down, and the momentum of the heavens reversed, slapping down on the body of the Gungjin ancestral chi. The seventh metal ancestral chi was once again shattered. However, it stubbornly condensed again. No matter how much it was consumed after being slapped, there would always be an inexhaustible source of power to replenish it. Compared to such an inexhaustible source of power, Yi Shiwen's infinite magic power seemed nothing. Yi Shiwen seemed to be able to see the indifferent smile on the face of the gung metal ancestral chi. However, Yi Shiwen didn't care. It seemed as if he didn't notice that the gung metal ancestral chi was constantly recovering. He just slapped the gung metal ancestral chi again and again. Every slap sent the gung metal ancestral chi flying and broke it on the spot. However, it quickly recovered. Its speed was so fast that even Yi Shiwen couldn't stop it. Palm after palm, every time the palm landed, the power of the heavens would be reversed, and the underground veins would also completely collapse. Countless volcanoes on the surface erupted, the earth shattered, and cracks appeared in the sea, evaporating on the spot or disappearing into an endless black hole. You're destroying the veins. At this time, the gunmetal ancestral chi also reacted at once. No wonder Yi Shiwen was neither fast nor slow. Even though he knew that he couldn't kill him, he still kept slapping the gunmetal ancestral chi. It turned out that in the process, the entire gunmetal world's veins had already been destroyed. Every palm could destroy countless veins. Although the gunmetal world was huge, it couldn't withstand the continuous gunmetal ancestral chi from a heavenly master like Yi Shiwen. At this time, it had already been completely destroyed. In the center of the gunmetal world, the Eastern Heavenly Lord's sacrificial ceremony was also becoming more and more successful. The veins were destroyed, and countless creatures died tragically. The gunmetal era's resistance was also decreasing. The gunmetal era's heavenly way was the incarnation of the will of all living beings and all things. However, if all living beings and all things were destroyed, he would naturally cease to exist. At this time, he was also greatly weakened and couldn't stop the Eastern Heavenly Lord's actions. At this time, the gunmetal ancestral chi finally understood Yi Shiwen's plan. His eyes widened in anger, and he almost shed tears of blood. He was extremely angry. Yi Shiwen laughed and said, "It's a little too late to just understand now." When he fought with the gunmetal ancestral chi, the gunmetal ancestral chi had many scruples and couldn't exert its full strength. However, it didn't matter to him. Every palm of universe creation palm fell. Even if it couldn't destroy the gunmetal ancestral chi, it could destroy the entire gunmetal world. An emperor-level master had the ability to destroy a world. Although they couldn't compete with the will of the heavenly way, they had the power to destroy the world. They just had to bear the backlash of the heavenly way represented by the will of all living beings. Not to mention the heavenly Lord, who was more than 100 times more terrifying and powerful than the emperor-level masters. Destroying a world was nothing at all. Under the situation where the gunmetal era's heavenly way was sealed by the heaven's sealing talisman, no one could stop it. Being able to revive the gunmetal ancestral chi was already the gunmetal era's heavenly way's full strength. How could it continue to stop it? Not to mention, if the gunmetal era was sacrificed, even the heavenly way would no longer exist, let alone any sin. Because sin and merit were relative, there was a judgment standard. That was, the heavenly way would judge whether it was beneficial to the development of the heavenly way. If even the heavenly way didn't exist, then there was no doubt about sin and merit. The gunmetal ancestral chi finally couldn't bear it anymore and erupted. Endless gunmetal ancestral chi formed around him and turned into a terrible sword aura. In an instant, it formed a storm and shrouded Yi Shiwen. However, how could Yi Shiwen be afraid of this gunmetal ancestral chi? He wore the robe of time and tore the sky full of golden light from his hands. He directly tore the storm of the gunmetal sword aura apart on the spot and turned it into nothingness. Then, he took a step forward and slapped down another palm of universe creation palm, directly smashing the gunmetal ancestral chi into pieces. It was just that most of the power gathered by the gunmetal ancestral chi just now had turned into the sword aura storm. At this time, it couldn't be revived immediately. Everything in the world had a limit. This gunmetal ancestral chi seemed to be able to revive infinitely, but it also had its own limit. And this was its limit. Although it was only for a moment, it was enough for Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen's big hand suddenly grabbed out and turned into a terrible ray of light. It suddenly grabbed into the body of the gunmetal ancestral chi and grabbed a wisp of will out. This wisp of will was crushed on the spot. This was the will of the heavenly way, but only a wisp. Because the main body had been sealed by the heaven's sealing talisman, it was already very difficult to be able to reveal such a wisp. Otherwise, if it was the complete will of the heavenly way, it wouldn't be so easily crushed by Yishuan. A smile appeared on Yishuan's face. The explosion of the endless Terra Meridians just now was just incidental. This was his real purpose. As expected, the Gung metal ancestral chi was fooled. In the end, it was still too naive. It erupted most of its power, and it couldn't recover in time. This was Yishuan's purpose. Sure enough, in front of him, the Gung metal ancestral chi didn't change back to its human form. Instead, it turned into a ball of Gung metal ancestral chi on the spot. The dazzling ray of light that filled the sky seemed to steal all the colors of the light. This was the foundation of the entire Gung metal era. In the entire Gung metal era, there weren't even 3 to 5 pieces of this level of divine material. With the remaining bit of spiritual wisdom, the Gung metal ancestral chi wanted to fly away and escape from Yishuan's control. However, how could Yishuan give it such a chance? He immediately stretched out his big hand and grabbed this ball of Gung metal ancestral chi in his hand. He began to erase the remaining bit of spiritual wisdom on the spot, completely turning it into a divine material of the heavens. At the same time, he also erased the possibility of it turning into a peerless figure in the future. Unless it took countless years, it would be possible to nurture another piece of spiritual wisdom. However, it was obvious that it was impossible for him to have such an opportunity. This ball of Gung metal ancestral chi was in his hand, but Yishuan was a little hesitant because he was now faced with 2 choices. One was to refine the Gung metal ancestral chi into his body, so that his gilded tyrant form could go up another level. Just by relying on his body, he would be able to contend with the celestial master Taoist tools. It was even possible to destroy the celestial master Taoist tools. In the gilded tyrant form that he cultivated in the past, there were laws of metal attribute in it. In terms of the fundamental origin, it was also the same origin as this Gung metal ancestral chi. This was also the reason why he could integrate the Gung metal ancestral chi into his body. Another option was to refine the Gung metal ancestral chi into a peerless Taoist tool. He didn't need other materials to refine it directly into a heavenly weapon. Because Gung metal itself was mainly used for killing, refining it into a heavenly weapon Taoist tool was the most suitable. Yishuan currently didn't have a life Taoist tool. Although he had a lot of Taoist tools on hand, he couldn't really exert 200% of their power without a life Taoist tool. After all, the improvement of his strength was limited. Moreover, once the refinement was successful, this heavenly weapon Taoist tool would immediately become an outstanding Taoist tool. It would leap to the top and become invincible. His strength would also be greatly improved all of a sudden. These 2 methods were considered to have their own advantages and disadvantages. This was the first time that he had fallen into such a dilemma. He had never thought that he would be able to obtain Gung metal ancestral chi, which was a divine material that could only be produced 3 to 5 times in an era. It could be said that it was so precious that even a divine city of the 10 great divine cities couldn't afford it. However, Yishuan was a decisive person. He only hesitated for a moment before he made a decision. That was to integrate this Gung metal ancestral chi into his body to strengthen the gilded tyrant form. Chapter 3461. At this stage, it was almost impossible to skip levels. This was because the factors that could allow one to skip levels did not exist in this realm. These were all deduced by the mysterious space. Otherwise, Yishuan would not have known that it could be used in this way. However, from the matter of the 7th metal ancestral chi, Yishuan also discovered another way to enhance his strength. As time gradually approached the Great Apocalypse, those ancient eras would become more and more crazy. They wanted to destroy the Fortune Divine Dynasty for no other reason than to survive. The current peace was just to accumulate strength. Before this, there were only a few factors that could allow people to surpass their cultivation level. One of them was mastering outstanding combat skills. However, at this realm, who was weaker than who? who hadn't experienced hundreds of battles and walked out from mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Even the flowers that were raised in the most greenhouse were similarly experienced in battles. Without exception, all of them had created their own path of conquest. It was very difficult to distinguish who was superior and who was inferior. He could even use this to comprehend the mysteries of many laws of the Seventh Metal Era. Although the Seventh Metal Era had been destroyed, it was still a powerful civilization that once dominated the world. It must have its merits. If Yishiwen could comprehend it completely, it would not be difficult to reach the level of the Fortune Divine Monarch. At the very least, he would be able to dominate many ancient eras. At that time, coupled with the seventh metal ancestral chi that had integrated into his body, he would be able to fight against a fifth realm celestial master. Even the top fifth realm celestial master would not be able to kill him. There was his family, his lover, and everything he had there. He couldn't just let it go like this. Although it seemed like the apocalypse was still very far away, he still understood the principle of not planning for eternity, not planning for a moment. Everything had to be prepared as early as possible. The longer it was towards the end, the less time was left for him. Instead, he had to comprehend his own great way. He had to walk a road that no one had ever walked before, and no one would follow. He had to take one step at a time towards the end of the endless great way. Once he cultivated to the peak of the fourth realm, Yishiwen could rely on the refinement of the seventh metal ancestral chi to fight against a master of the fifth realm. His combat strength was enough to surpass levels. The wonders of this gung metal ancestral chi naturally went without saying. It was the essence nurtured by the entire gung metal great era, invaluable and immeasurable. Yishiwen quickly shook off these thoughts and directly integrated the seventh metal ancestral chi into his body. In an instant, densely packed blood beads seeped out of his body. The golden blood beads flowed down and almost dyed him into a golden man. It would be difficult for him to step into the fifth realm in a short period of time, but it would not be difficult for him to step into the peak of the fourth realm. This was because the world tree fruit he had watered with the blood essence of the heavenly venerate from the demonic epoch that he had killed was about to ripen. When the time came, he would be able to save millions of years of cultivation and directly reach the peak of the fourth realm. Once he could digest the gung metal ancestral chi, his defensive power would increase tremendously. It would not be an exaggeration to say that within the same realm, he would truly be invincible. No one would be able to hurt him. This gung metal ancestral chi was too overbearing. It almost instantly injured Yi Shiwen's indestructible gilded tyrant form. His entire body was densely covered in scars. Now that he wanted to compete for the position of Eastern Holy Lord, the stronger he was, the better. He did not even care about Silver Moon. In his mind, the true enemy was space-time heavenly venerate. He had refined a heavenly venerate Tao tool, and he was naturally outstanding and invincible. However, in the end, Yishiwen still chose to smelt it into his body. Perhaps in the future, Silver Moon would be even more terrifying in space-time heavenly venerate after she regained her full strength. However, that was also in the distant future. At least in this time's battle for the position of Eastern Holy Lord, she would not play any role. However, this kind of melancholy only lasted for a moment. He was not such a sentimental person. Even if the world was going to be destroyed, he still had the power to protect himself. In that case, there was nothing to be afraid of. It was just that he wanted to do more and protect more people. Even if he became an extreme powerhouse, there were still some things that he could not let go of. If he gave up on them, even if he became a peerless powerhouse like the Fortune Godlord, what fun would there be for him? Another thing was the depth of his martial arts. Normally, the Emperor King realm needed to be crossed. It was normal for a realm to take hundreds of thousands of years, or even millions of years. It was useless for an extreme powerhouse of a lower realm to make up for it. Only by breaking through to the next realm could one surpass the opponent of the same realm. At that time, the battle between the two sides would be truly intense. The Fortune God dynasty had to fight against the ancient era, prepare for the great destruction of the world, and suppress the foreign creatures within its borders. The situation would become more and more difficult. Even if Yishuin had mastered the universe creation palm, it was still not enough for him to fight those of a higher realm. At most, he would be invincible among his peers, because Yishuin's own strength limited the power of the universe creation palm. This was the first time since Yishuin had entered the Emperor King realm that he had the combat power of a higher realm. The Emperor King realm had already entered the extreme realm. Although it was not as good as the heavenly venerate, it was also the extreme realm. The reason why it was called the extreme realm was that it was almost the end of the Great Way. It was not something that could be achieved by cultivating step by step. At that time, the possibility of him competing for the position of Eastern Holy Lord would increase by a lot. The fourth realm and the fifth realm were not the same concepts. Although blood was flowing all over his body, Yishuin did not care. He took a step forward and entered the depths of the ground. He began to frantically destroy the earth veins. If the earth veins were destroyed, the Gungjin Great World would also be destroyed. Then, the Gungjin era's heavenly way would no longer be strong. This was a drastic measure. In this case, the Gungjin ancestral chi, which could allow him to fight those of a higher realm, was extremely important. A fierce battle between the two was inevitable. Compared to the space-time heavenly venerate, the heavenly venerate Silver Moon, who had just broken through the heavenly gate tribulation, could not be considered a strong opponent. Yishuin also thoroughly understood that if he wanted to fight those of a higher realm, it would only be possible with an epic-level divine object like the Gungjin ancestral chi. However, this kind of thing was too rare. An era might not even produce 3 or 5 of them. In addition, it could become a matchless powerhouse, or become a peerless magic weapon, or be taken away by others. The difficulty of obtaining it again was simply like looking for a needle in a haystack. But even so, he was already very satisfied. If he wanted to break through to the fifth realm, it would be very difficult without the help of the tribulation breaking incense. It would also depend on whether or not there would be opportunities later. If he only relied on painstaking efforts to improve like water dripping through a stone, the time needed was simply unimaginable. After all, it was the essence of an era. No matter how weak it was still much stronger than a human strength. Thinking of this, he could not help but reveal a somewhat self-deprecating smile. Ever since he was reborn into this world, he had been constantly struggling and climbing up. He wanted to survive and go further and further, but it seemed as if there would never be an end. He had cultivated to this point and lived as long as the world. But what was the use of that? Even the world was about to be destroyed, so what were people like them? The universe creation slash that Yishuin displayed now certainly could not be compared to the peak of the Fate Heavenly Lord. Although it was dragged down by Yishuin's own realm and comprehension, the universe creation palm was still Yishuin's hidden trump card. It was a trump card that could determine the universe with one strike. As for the divine secret manuals, which of these Emperor Lords did not create divine secret manuals? Originally, the amazing martial techniques below the Emperor Lord level were too ordinary here. In addition to diligently cultivating to improve one's realm, obtaining this extremely rare, epic-level divine object was also a way. It was difficult, but it did not mean that it was impossible. In other words, the power of the universe creation palm depended on the strength of the user. The universe creation palm that Yishuin used at the Emperor Lord level could not be compared to the Heavenly Lord level. If even Yishuin could not bear it, it could be imagined that if it were someone else, they would probably explode on the spot. However, because it was difficult, once the refinement was successful, his strength would also improve a lot, and he could even fight beyond his realm. At that time, Yishuin, who also wanted to compete for the position of Eastern Heavenly Lord, would naturally face space-time Heavenly Lord. In short, this was also a way. Yishuin had a strong sense of crisis ever since he knew about the epic battlefield. The Moon City being breached made him feel that a storm was coming. The reason why Space-Time Heavenly Lord did not have any ideas about the East, South, West, and West Heavenly Lords, but instead fought for the position of Middle Heavenly Lord was not because he was too stubborn, but because he understood that none of the East, South, West Heavenly Lords were easy to deal with. Everything had a price. It was impossible to accomplish something so easily. Just like the fourth realm and the third realm were two different concepts. If Eastern Heavenly Lord succeeded in becoming a Middle Heavenly Lord, then Space-Time Heavenly Lord's plan would completely collapse. Then, he would settle for second best and pursue the position of Eastern Heavenly Lord. At that time, how many people could Yi Shiwen protect with his strength? Moreover, Yi Shiwen also wanted to find a way to return to the myriad heavens. If the world was destroyed, the myriad heavens would also not be able to escape death. Without the protection of heavenly lords, the myriad heavens would probably be annihilated. At the same time, his combat strength would also increase to varying degrees. As long as he could refine it, he would not need to refine much, and he would be invincible in the fourth realm. Previously, Demon Venerable Myriad Star's level could not stop him, and he would not be as difficult to deal with as before. However, after Eastern Heavenly Lord became a Middle Heavenly Lord, he could not occupy two positions at the same time. At that time, he would have a chance. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.